Good evening. Welcome to Around the World with Dee and Friends. Tonight we'll be talking about the UK with Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister, the importance with Spain and Argentina, with the importance of Spain winning. We'll talk about Hungary replacing the president, Israel's election, and Donardi. He's in charge of the show tonight, so he's got the information. And right now, oh yeah, Wayne's joining tonight, and obviously we have
Yeah, I'm from
Devontae.
down under.
Yeah, he's from down under, yes. And Harsh had said he's going to stop in to talk about two of the topics here. But
Okay.
anyway, right now I'm going to start sharing the show around. This way we can build up an audience. So how are things down under?
Oh, I think everything's going great. They're actually having their Labor conference at the moment, and Anthony just gave a lovely little speech off the Q monitor of the monitor. He's actually involved in a lot of corruption. He
Mm,
yeah, like dinners had a big dinner at the lodge in Kirribilli with the head of the Commonwealth Bank, which is the biggest private bank in Australia. Had a
mm.
had a dinner, a special dinner, and some other CEOs, and apparently got a kickback of $1 million for him and the Labor Party. I think it was a kickback of $1 million for his own personal bank account. So there's a lot of corruption going on here, Dee, and we're controlled by the Jewish lobby too, and which is Zionist agenda.
Oh yes.
So it's yeah, we're
Mm,
and I've just seen something this morning about all the all the colonization of the world by the so we've got two empires that have come together, America and the UK. But there was a great Ottoman Empire. There was a British Empire, and the British Empire colonized you with the Pilgrims.
mm-hmm.
With the great War of Independence. They've colonized the whole world, basically Africa, Asia, all through the Americas. It's and these are all for what purpose? Not good purposes, Dee.
Right. When you look at Britain's history, um, it's a history of terrorism. Really, when you think
Yeah,
about it, just going around and just believing they have the right.
and look what's just now happened in the British Parliament. They've elected all these people who are loyal to get kickbacks, I assume, from Israel.
It's
You know,
sickening. And most of the population is against all of this. I mean, they feel the fury just as you do and as we do. And that their country is being taken over. They have no say.
mm.
People are
It's like
furious with the
the
landfills there,
politicians
too.
do what they want to do, and they don't listen to the people,
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
they.
don't listen to some of the people in opposite. Like in the UK, there's Jeremy Corbyn. I'm in his party, and
Mhm.
he goes to the Palestinian rallies. He leads them actually,
Mhm.
and so yeah, he's a good man, Jeremy Corbyn, and it's just terrible what's happening. There's some good politicians here too, but China's the one to watch out for at the moment. What their move could be over this Iran business, because the moment he goes to bomb Tehran and his pickaxe at mountain, they're going to react, and who knows what they're going to do, but they'll probably take on the um, the U.S. empire, their fleet.
Mhm.
A big naval battle, like the Battle of Midway. Gee, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? Not
Well,
really. It'd be
and
terrible.
And the thing is, people don't think of consequences for your actions. And you tell that to people in the US, some of the people, and they just don't get it. They don't get it. The people in other countries, they're responding to the actions of the US government.
Mm,
They really think you can go and bomb whatever country you want, and those people are just going to sit back and love you and not say anything, and they're not going
mm,
to respond.
mm,
And that question, oh, but they say they hate America, this, that. Yeah, well, you're bombing the hell out of people. You're starving people. You have sanctions. The U.S. government does horrific things. I mean, I'm sure if somebody was doing that to the U.S., we would not be all happy. Oh, the people that are starving us. Oh, we love them. Oh, they're
mm.
bombing us. Oh, terrific. It's just people just don't get it.
No, they don't get it. No. A lot of the American people were, my understanding, you're probably pretty good on that, Dee, but my understanding, a lot of American people aren't very good on geopolitical state of affairs. They just care about their insular, what goes on. They don't have this broad view. Like I had to explain to someone this morning like, because I said I was a comunado, which is the Spanish term for communist.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to explain to this person, because they actually want to do something nice for me. They want to buy me a ticket for a thing called Sentient. It's a little documentary that's come out, and it's about experimentation on monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for pharmacia products.
Right.
Mm.
I just can't stand all these the animal testing.
Anyway, this person wants to, because they don't have a concession price. She seems very nice, and she'd like to buy me the ticket for it.
That was nice.
Which is very nice of her. Yeah. If she doesn't buy me the ticket, she said she'd give me the money, but I I prefer to actually. I've given her my details, so I prefer to actually get the ticket for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Evelina's here. Hello, Evelina.
Hey, Evelina. Evelina put some good posts on your group too.
Evelina knows a lot that's going on.
What's going on? Mm. I wonder if I didn't. I noticed that. I noticed at the World Cup final that Melee didn't seem to be there. What was the story? Does anyone know the story with Melee? I thought he would have been there at the final.
Mm, I have no idea.
No, I'm not sure either. Maybe he was with um yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was with Zionist people watching it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I really wasn't watching it. I was paying attention to it, but I
Mm,
wasn't watching it.
yeah, I felt a bit the same way. Although I enjoyed the halftime show, but I'm a bit of a music lover, so I really like that Eliana. She's she's great. She's got so much energy about her.
Hmm. Yes,
The vibrance of youth, that's sort of
yes,
past us
yes.
now.
I know, right? You don't realize how fast time goes.
Mm.
Okay, just waiting for more people to come in and we can get started, or we can get started now if Donardi wants to get started.
Yeah, sure. I think it's. I think the best thing we could do, best thing about right now is I think it's best we talk about what occurred during the World Cup the finals. I'm sure. I'm sure all of us here watched it or watched some clips of it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it was basically a then a match between Spain and Argentina, and while and many see this as huge, mainly because um, and it's cost and it's funny when I because I watch a lot of clips um,
Hmm.
of people trying to of especially those in the Latino community um, and or having to weigh in what's happening because they basically said so we they basically came to the conclusion that is we're going to support Spain. We're going to support our stepdad instead of our extremely cousin.
Hmm.
And that's basically what happened. Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah, and yeah, it's funny. Before I go, I was gonna say like Ecuadorians can't stand Chileans. Chileans can't stand Venezuelans. Venezuelans can't stand Bolivian. But there's one thing that every single Latino country in Latin America have in common. Argentina doesn't belong. Hmm?
Right.
Mm.
And don't blame don't blame us. Argentina said it first.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been. But I think the most significant, it's why it's so significant because I think it's sorry. I think it's because of the political aspect of the match between Spain and Argentina. Because I'm sure fully aware, Spain's government is a fundamental supporter of Palestine, and Argentina is a staunch supporter of Israel, and Argentina's government is a staunch supporter of Israel. With this art with the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, allegedly there's been evidence and reports going on that Malay is allegedly Netanyahu's cousin. Hmm.
Oh, yeah, I heard that rumor. Yeah, people. Yeah, yeah, people.
You were gonna say yeah, and just before the match happened, Malay, Trump, and even Netanyahu came out in support of support of Argentina's support of Argentina's teams, which is the type of people you want to have a team be associated with: a war criminal, a grifter, and a criminal. And all those three are Trump. Hmm?
Hmm.
Yeah, and FIFA has actually been and the World Cup has been plagued with a lot of controversies, mainly circling around Argentina, mainly because Argentina has been basically been I think like a bunch of entitled brats, like and not just the players. There's been well known facts and evidence that the players that the players and even the fans have been spewing such racist dogma in public and throughout the entire World Cup,
Hmm.
which two of them during a live stream from iShowSpeed, two of them were making one was making was making monkey movements. An Argentina fan was mocking iShowSpeed with a monkey gesture, and one of them told said to go back to Africa, and
Oh,
and and another one, and there were and then not to mention the French team tried to claim that the Francis that Francis team can't possibly have a French identity because the French teams some of the French team members have to be black. Hmm?
oh. Evelina has mentions here. She says Millet was pissed off at Messi, and the team due to the Malvinas banner. Malvinas banner. Also, Messi refused photo op with Millet. And then she asks what? And then she says Argentines are not staunch supporters of Israel. Yeah, it's the Malay government, and I'm sure there's pockets, but a lot of people are not for Israel. But you have the
Yeah,
pocket of people, and the Israeli neighborhoods there too, or the Jewish neighborhoods, the Zionist neighborhoods. Malay and his supporters are. Oh, okay. Yeah, Malay and his supporters here are pro-Israel, and then, but that's the thing with Argentina too. They don't like all these outsiders coming in.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I was also going to say like that. I think that what's really smart of people disliking Argentina is mostly the fact that they're well known for doing provocative things.
Hmm.
Like the multi, like for example, after they defeat England, they unfold a banner that basically said the Falklands belongs to the Argentinians, and that's a history of itself that's probably going to take so much time to process it, and I don't want to take up a lot of time in here. Um, but basically it caused and it sparked a lot of backlash because there's a policy in FIFA where they're not allowed to the players are not supposed to unfold political statements, and unfortunately FIFA has done nothing to discipline the Argentinian teams, because and it's also and that's also another thing, and that is that many people have put out the fact that the only reason Argentina got this far is because Argentina was basically pulling the strings,
Hmm.
I
which
just
what
wanted to say that Evelyn is saying Argentines are not staunch supporters of Israel,
No,
which is true. They're not. They don't like. Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
but like, yeah, it's Malay and his supporters, the right wing,
Mm.
and you know that Israel's been sending a lot of people over to Argentina, and plus there's people that have been settled in Argentina for many years that um, that are Jewish. They have the Jewish communities. So like any other place, but they have their pockets. But it's the Malay people.
Mm.
yeah.
And also, Denali, do you remember what happened when the Egypt lost to my team, the Socceroos? Sorry, they beat us. They unfurled a banner for supporting Palestine, and the coach got roughed up by the Dallas police. Do you remember that, Denali?
Yeah, I remember. Mhm.
Well, the coach got manhandled by the Dallas police. It wasn't a good look.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. But anyway, basically the entire World Cup was basically someone any country, please take out Argentina, and
Hmm.
that's when Spain comes in, and which is why people are very shocked of how this game started, because usually Spain was able to get basically Argentina was able to get away with a lot of things
Hmm.
throughout this game, and it's also no and also it's also worth pointing out that the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, is a well-known supporter of Argentina, which a lot of people accuse him for using his position to basically help out his favorite team, which shows per clear bias, which is clearly a rule it is clearly what goes against FIFA. But anyway, but then that's what's really I think what people stood out what the biggest standouts of of this game was the fact that not only the fact that Spain was able to beat Argentina, but also the fact that one of Argentina's team members, Enzo Fernandez, got a red card for basically tossing one of the Spain players into the air, but also the fact that after the match there was a literal brawl started by Argentina against Spain. There were multiple you could find multiple videos from different angles showing some Argentina basically starting a fight with Spain.
Oh,
Um,
Hmm.
and during the ceremony where they get the trophy or everything, there's actual footage of the Argentina team literally turning their backs on Spain, and
That's
mm.
terrible.
now you look, and I'm like, wow, that is petty. And you want and you
That's
can
not sportsmanlike behaviour, is it?
yeah, and they wonder why people and it gives you imagine doing that, and it gives you some aspects of why people fundamentally hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Donati, you mentioned about Gianni Infantino, the FIFA boss. Sepp Blatter, who was the boss before him of FIFA, has come out and said some things about Gianni because he's not acting on the cases of sexual assault allegations that happened with players during the FIFA World Cup. And Sepp Blatter he wants to run again, Gianni Infantino, but Sepp Blatter, it looks like there's going to be a FIFA investigation of him now.
Yeah, then yeah, definitely. And um, as of right now, there's actually a current investigation in by the FBI against the Argentina the soccer
Oh, okay.
organization.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, but I think the biggest but as for how Argentina and also and this is also a biggest thing I noticed. There was during the games one Argentinian fan raised an Israeli flag during an Argentina versus Egypt match. I didn't even I forgot to mention that part. Um, I can't believe I almost missed that part. But um, but I think the biggest thing is of how Argentina reacted when they lost, and they did not take it very well. In fact, if you look at the aftermath of Argentina's fans in New York City, the New York City is basically trashed and
Oh, right.
by Argentina fans, and in Argentina itself, Argentinians freaked the heck out. There were massive riots to this point. It was so bad that riot police had to come in and basically disperse the crowd.
I'm aware. Mm. Well, actually, this is just on a separate subject, but I'm following what's called the cockroach uh, junta party in New Delhi. The students, that's another issue going on at the moment. There's 40% unemployment in India, and there's all these students who are being locked out of universities, and they just want justice. There's a lot of social problems happening in India with the Hindu Nationalist Party.
They're horrible.
Yeah, they're not good people. They
Yeah,
are horrible. I'm
Well, that,
actually following them now on Instagram. Because it's not good what's happening to the students there.
mm-hmm.
Anyway, did Nutty carry on?
yeah.
I got
It,
sidetracked. Sorry about that.
it, it, it's okay. But yeah, but yeah, this the this so yeah, this World Cup was huge, and it's huge. Not and it's also right now Argentina is not taking the action, but it's not taking it very well. But it also is worth pointing out that people are now actively criticizing Argentina, the Argentina team, especially since they've been been gang was able to get away with a lot of the penalties was able to get away with a lot of the penalties and and because and it's causing a lot of people to wonder whether the game was fixed from the beginning.
Hmm. Okay, I don't know. It's 10:08. Let me see if there's anything before that. But Evelina says you're defending riot police in Argentina, Donardi. It's a repressive force.
I I not I did not I did not I was not I'm not defending that. I was just saying I was just pointing out that it got so bad that the riot police came out to disperse. I was just only stating what I saw what I've been
Yeah, but Donati
what I've been.
in Argentina, Donati in some of these South American countries, Chile's another example of a country where the riot police and the police repress the people in their country. They don't let them express themselves.
Yeah,
You
Donati
know.
understands that. He's not defending it. He's just saying that's what he saw.
Oh right, yeah. I'm just saying. That's all.
Right, yeah, I
I'm
understand.
not having a go. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's so you don't have to
Mhm.
worry about it. Don't worry. No, don't worry. I'm not defending the right place. I'm just pointing out
No,
what I did
because
say.
Donati, I like you because you like I can tell that you've got a um slight problem with your voice sometimes, and I've got a disability too, so I'm very compassionate. I'm not having a go at all.
Well, thank you. Um, and lastly, about this game, during the ceremony, people it what's really gotten people's attention was the fact that Trump tried to photobomb the trophy thing, um, and 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 this is true. During the there was a during the when it was game when they were celebrating, one of the Australian commentators actually had a hot mic moment that said they were going to edit Trump out. and and guess what they did? They edited him out.
He
Very
always
good.
has to make everything about him.
Yeah, I was like, because when I saw it, I
What
was like,
about hey? What about it went viral? There was one particular. I think it might have been Jamalos or one of the Spanish players was mocking him. He's stupid, you know. Um, Macho Man dance, that he does. He was mocking him. In fact, basically, all the Spanish team at one stage mocked him.
Mhm.
yeah, it's like I'm like Trump. I don't know who thought it was a I don't know who thought it was a good idea to go to this game and thinking you're going to get some applause, but I don't know how to point this out, buddy. But everyone hates you. Hmm?
I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah. No, I hate him. I don't like him at all.
Well,
I
Evelina
make
says,
TikTok videos of him, Donati,
mm,
because he actually denigrated a whole swathe of society, including the Democrats, Donati, in calling us all communists. Like I seen something. The Epstein, he gave money to Epstein, something like 40,000 times.
yeah,
He gave money to Epstein.
yeah, I mean, let's be. And Trump has done so many horrific things. And I won't be surprised.
hmm,
Mm. It's
yeah, and here it was.
unbelievable when you
It has
think
two
about it.
Argentine players refuse to shake Trump's hand. His tiny hands, yeah.
Mm.
You can't blame them. Why would anybody want to shake his hand?
Mm.
Yeah, he has to ruin everything, you know.
I mean, the infamous case of Trump is the 13-year-old girl, Katie Holmes. He's never shown any remorse about anything he did with that girl.
No, He's just so evil.
He's evil.
No one is. In fact, no one is surprised. No one ever should be surprised.
Tiny hand. Mm. What's the go with his handle being all sort of? Is that just age related, or the medication he's on? His hands all sort of. One of his hands is all sort of a
Yeah,
mess, isn't it? Hmm.
yes. There's been speculation that Trump is not doing very well, and that's the fact that he's basically how should I what's the right way to put this? He's basically going. He's not. Many people are assuming he's not going to last long, and
No.
he's been under multiple rounds of sedatives and
Mm.
medication, which basically he's hopped on more pills and more. And I'm not surprised he's hopped on more pills than a 1960s housewife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Denali, this drug he has to take for his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, Adderall, probably is not doing very good things to his endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
people keep hearing he's the medical tests. They're coming back all the time. How he's not doing good, and as you said, with
Mm,
his hands, his ankles, you know, his
mm.
diapers, and this and that, and in different times he was rushed off to the hospital. But it just seems he keeps going.
He's probably got a similar problem to me, but more exaggerated. Like I've got an irritable bowel syndrome problem, and but with Trump, it's probably even worse than what I've got.
Yeah, his body basically is shutting down in a way, and,
Mm,
and they're just keeping him.
I
It's
think so
almost like
too.
they're keeping him
Yeah.
on life support.
Mm. That's the theory around Mitch McConnell, that Mitch McConnell's been that he's brain dead, but they're just keeping him alive on life support. That's the
Yeah,
allegation.
Yeah, that's the theory. Basically, there is a deadline of whether or not to basically to just to launch a special election, and if that and they're most likely going to keep him alive until that deadline passed, and they'll and because Republicans do not want Andy Bashir, the current governor of Kentucky, who is a Democrat, to appoint a senator who is most likely going to be a Democrat.
mm.
They don't want to risk that.
So like keep him on
Donati,
life
what do you
support.
think's going to happen in the? Are they going to have the balance of the power? Who's going to have the balance of the power in the House where after
I,
the midterms go through?
Honestly, it's most likely going to be the Democrats.
Yeah, it's looking
Given,
that
given
way, isn't it?
despite the mid redistricting effort by Republicans, there's a lot of consensus against Republicans right now, and Democrats
Mm,
are basically taking event are basically using that anchor to and most likely going
mm,
to use the push for a Democratic House of Representatives. As for the Senate, that's a kind of a gray area. Hmm?
great. Can I ask a question going back to the Civil War now? This might be a very hard question to answer, but when you had Lincoln there, was there problems in the Congress back then? You know, and I suppose there was because was the Democrats and Republicans. I don't know if they gone back that far. Does anyone know that? The were
I
they were
know
they?
there was a lot of fights going on back then, and then there was
Mm,
actually fist fights going on.
right. Mm, I
Yeah,
see.
Yeah, it's worth. I love how I know how people like to talk about. Oh, Congress isn't used to be isn't what used to be. Like it's used to be a bastion of conversation of of civilized debate. I'm like that is not what the what the government was like back then. Because it's worth pointing out that in the early in the mid 1800s, senators pulled pistols at each other, and
Yeah.
at one point, a congressman walked into the Senate chamber and beat Senator Charles Sumner nearly to death.
Oh, okay. Wow. Mm.
They like
So
to throw around that word civilized, and it's like, really, when were these people ever civilized? It's maddening throughout history using that word civilized.
there's nothing civilized about the United States Congress.
Oh,
Nothing. It's
we got a
nothing is
quorum now,
civilized.
see? We got a quorum.
I got a question. Did we already talk about? Did you guys already talk about Spain and Argentina? God bless Spain. God, I'm so sick of Argentina. Fuck those Zionist pieces of shit.
We were just I was just about to finish it off. Do you would like to add something?
Yeah, I'm so happy that Javier Milei and that fucking emasculate and those emasculated pieces of crap that Zionist pieces of crap Argentina lost. It was great seeing those fucking tears. They're fucking tears. They're such terrible people. Anyway, like when you see Messi kissing the wall and Javier Milei kissing the wall and wanting to create our Israel and Patagonia, it's like, you know what? Fuck these people. No wonder the rest of South America hates them. You know,
Mm.
Hmm.
like can the rest of South America just have like organize a little blitzkrieg and destroy those assholes? Fuck all of them. Seriously, they're all pieces of crap anyway.
I mean,
I got
They're
a
a
good
bunch of white
idea,
supremacists
Ash.
too.
Why don't they burn the palace down of Malays in Buenos Aires? They could have a big bonfire, you know?
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, the way they would look at someone like myself and Denard, they're all a bunch of racist pieces of shit anyway. And they support Zionist genocide, so definitely fuck them all.
yeah, I'm not
Mm.
gonna. Yeah, and it's not gonna lie. They're easily. Argentina is easily the most racist country. Hmm?
Yeah, that's not saying much. That's pretty obvious. Which is nuts because a lot of Latinos suffer from colorism, but Argentina's the worst when it comes to it. But then again, what do you expect from a bunch of Italians who speak Spanish?
That's true.
I mean, what?
Evelina's just saying that Biden was kept on sort of
Well,
off the hook too.
it was elder abuse, like she says. Biden was also kept on. Isn't that elder abuse? Yes, and I said that many times during Biden's presidency that it was elder abuse.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what do you expect from a bunch of like Italians who speak like Spanish? I mean, what type of name is Enzo Fernandez? Like seriously, that's an Italian name for a supposed Spanish name. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
Okay,
Even
Evelina
Lionel
says
Messi's a full-blooded Italian, or
right.
damn near full-blooded.
Oh, okay.
Evelina
See,
says there's a worldwide campaign against Argentina. The left is contributing. The idea is to isolate.
Well, again, considering how racist they are, I don't give a fuck about that.
yeah.
If she wants to go on that hill, that's fine. I don't give a fuck.
Like she says, a
Yeah.
campaign against Argentina. Yeah, people are fed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I actually got some breaking news from Colombia. Um,
Okay.
Okay, far away.
There's now a dispute between the Trumpist far right and which is the Esperia faction and the traditional right in the traditional right wing, such as like Alvaro Uribe. Hmm? So yeah, there's been a dispute between President-elect Abelardo de la Esperia and former President Alvaro Uribe for political control of Congress, reflects a tension that has also appeared in other countries in Latin America. The clash between the new expression of the right wing inspired by Trump, more servile to interest to the U.S. and the traditional conservative sector. The first visible expression that disputes between the right wing sectors is the election of the congressional presidency. While Uribe promotes the senator of his party, or Honorio Enriquez, the president-elect and his designated interior minister Rodrigo Lara support the candidacy of Senator Alfredo de Luque and of the U Party. In this scenario, in this scenario, the historic PAC, which has the largest bench in the legislatures, could become a determining actor to tilt the balance towards either of the two candidates, or a third that has the support of the other benches. Basically, in this context, Colombia joined other Latin American countries where tensions had risen between the new right wing leadership and that's politically close to Donald Trump and the traditional sector of the national right. The cases of Argentina or Chile allows to illustrate how this dispute has been expressed in the region. Um, and when it came to that Senate presidency, um, the candidacy for the president of the Senate, their Esperia's candidate lost, which many see as a huge blow to to the president elect before he even took office.
Hmm.
And now there's speculations that the left may not recognize Esperia's presidency.
Hmm.
Hey,
That
Denali, I can see some future. I'm pretty intuitive. I can see some future news in the not too distant future. I've been looking into my crystal ball, and I can see a a big naval battle coming in the Persian Gulf between the Chinese PLA Navy and the Great American
yeah,
Empire.
that's been a battle years in the making. Because at some point, the U.S. and Chinese have to face off, right? I mean, unfortunately, they both want to carve up the world. I mean,
Mm,
America worships Israel, and the Chinese want to be the Israel of the East. So,
mm.
I hate to say it, but yeah,
It's just that harsh. That if it happens, it's looking like it could happen. It's not going to be pretty, is it?
no, the closest thing we had to this was in Ukraine and Syria, when the Chinese and the Russians were sending troops into that region. Mainly
Mm,
Ukraine, because to fight off like what America and Israel were doing. So this could be like a billion times worse, considering how the Chinese care about their navy more than they care about troops on the ground.
yeah,
But yeah, in
and
regards,
the other factor that you have to throw into this is that the Russian Navy could get involved too.
yeah.
So yeah, it could get very, very, very nasty.
Well, we all know that Iran is the country that has the actual military might. The Chinese have the technology, and the Russians just live off past reputation. Like
Mm,
Iran and the China, those are the bus drivers on that side of the world for the war. The Russians,
yeah.
okay, they want to be America, but at the same time, it's like the America of the East. But at the same time, they don't have the moxie. They don't have the might or the moxie for it as much as the other countries. Whereas
Mm,
Iran actually has the capabilities to destroy the world, and yet they're like, no, Habibi, we won't do that.
Is I
We will
never
let Israel
mm.
live, even though we should destroy them. So,
I just
Oh,
Okay,
when I
wait.
sorry.
well, tit for tat.
No, let
You
Denardi
destroyed
talk about
Tehran, we'll
something.
destroy the rest of you.
there. Denard, what were we saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say when it came to Colombia, I never thought to see the historic pact led by left wing President Gustavo Petro and the Democratic Center, which is basically led by right wing President Alvaro Uribe, basically coming together to prevent Esperia's candidate from winning. I never thought it would. I never thought I would see the date of that the left and the traditional right basically work together and work together in this.
Mm. And what's happening with Gustavo Petro now, Donati?
Well right now he basically said there's currently an investigation of whether or not the election where Esperia won is whether it's going to be nullified can be nullified. Um, it's in so but as of right now he's kind of been off the radar when it came to that.
And
I
Okay.
said, but as I said, the left wing faction, which holds the historic pact, which holds the most seats in the Colombian Congress, it's
Mm.
probably not the left wing faction is probably not. It's like I said, it's reportedly not going to recognize Esperia's presidency. As there's been as you know there's been multiple allegations of irregularities and possibly foreign interference in the election in the presidential election, primarily by Israel.
yes, Israel,
Mm.
because they want the Isaac
You
Accords.
know, why
Everybody,
do you sound like such an anti-Semite accusing Israel of everything? I did not. Don't you understand the reason you guys have civil rights for the end?
I'll shut up, baby killer. No one cares about this.
You know, you. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. It
Yeah,
really is. But it's absolutely absurd. No, no. I mean, I guess, all right, we're all on camera. I don't care. But no, the problem I have, yeah, all right, way to go, Wayne.
Revelation.
Wayne's World. Dilly do, dilly do, dilly do, dilly do, dilly do. But no, but seriously, I'm sick and tired of Israel. Like, I'm kind of at the point where it's like,
I
can we
think that we all are.
can we
all
just
are.
put
It's-
all the Zionists into like a nearest labor camp and just work themselves to death? Can we
Put
just
them out
do
in
that?
Somalia or
can't, you
put them in the Sahara.
guys,
That to the Sahara. Make them send them to the Sahara Desert and have them pretend and have them think they're trying to irrigate the desert to try to bring like wildlife and tropical life there.
I
Just
Yeah,
to
they can.
work. Yeah,
you
just
can't be talking like that. That's just well, it's
why?
not.
Because it's the anti-Semitic.
I
It's
got
just not
there's
acceptable speech.
This we actually I hate to interrupt. Actually got breaking news. The Houthis have closed the Bab
Oh,
al
they were threatening
Mandab
to do it. Yeah, I'm
Strait.
not surprised.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, they need to.
Yeah,
Which
no,
means
that's terrible.
that Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman will be a little bit upset now.
Yeah, as he should be, because finally the Houthis did something good. But I want to read this comment Evelina said. There's a worldwide campaign against Argentina. The leftists contribute. Their idea is isolate. Well, maybe if the Argentines weren't such racist, arrogant pieces of shit that looked down on everybody next to them, and they weren't a bunch of white supremacist pieces of crap, then perhaps maybe people wouldn't want them to be isolated. And the fact that they're also Zionist pieces of crap that want to create another Israel in Patagonia, yeah, I mean, maybe the Argentines need to sit out and like take a time out and learn what they're doing wrong. I don't know. Maybe they need to learn from their mistakes and realize what they're doing wrong. I don't know. Just a thought, Evelina. I'm sorry, but I don't want to defend people like that. I really don't.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what's been. I agree with you. Like I said, Argentina is easily the most racist country.
They're the most
I was-
racially confused and racist at the same time. They think they want to be Hispanic, but they're not. But yet they want to say they're Italian and like German and European. So fuck them.
Technically they see more of themselves as European. I mean, throughout their existence, they basically wiped out the indigenous population and wiped the non-white populations in Argentina, and it's literally enshrined in their constitution to basically create basically migrate people from primarily from Spain and Italy to be part of Argentina. It's
Right.
just, and it's well known that that they it's not the first time they have made a racist statements.
Remember.
One,
I was just going to
yeah,
say something in the chat to Evelina.
Right.
Evelina, have a look at what's happening to the Argentine peso. You 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 you
Right.
you you you're in a stagflation situation in Argentina. Your peso is it's going to you're headed for much political trouble. And Evelina's pointing out that 45 million people
Yeah.
can't speak
Yeah.
for
She
everyone,
says.
you know.
Yeah.
yeah,
She says
and
they're not any more racist than anyone else. She's speaking 45 million people. Yeah, that may or may not be true. But here's the thing: they also don't call themselves Latinos. They call themselves Europeans who speak Spanish. So they don't. They're not
yeah,
even a part of the Latin diaspora, according to them, because they think they're so
yeah,
much better or whatever the fuck.
yeah. It's also important. Yeah, like I said, they don't hide the fact that they're racist. I think
They
it's
don't.
worth pointing out that yeah, it's worth pointing out that back in 2021, the former president Alberto Fernandez, who was part of the Peronist Party, who was a Peronist, which is basically center left to left wing, he basically made a racist comment during a press conference with Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, saying the Mexicans came from the Indians, the Brazilians came from the jungle, but we Argentines came from the ships, and they were ships that came from Europe.
Jeez.
That's very crazy.
And then you wonder why the Nazis were so comfortable settling there. It explains a lot.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
and the backlash, and it was so, and that comment was so bad. It caused so much backlash, and the comment even actually drew sharp criticism from Brazilian politicians such as Jair Bolsonaro.
That's pretty
Found it-
fucked up when Jair Bolsonaro is criticizing someone like that.
Yeah, you know you pissed you pissed you done wrong. You pissed off one of the most right wing presidents in Brazil.
Yeah, I would say so.
Who didn't respond? Who actually responded by tweeting a picture of himself in an indigenous headdress and the word "jungle" in capital letters.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I get what he was trying to do, but doesn't make you look good either, Jair.
No, yeah, well, I mean, we all know. Well, that's why he's in a steel cage, so, you know. But yeah, as
but
for Evelina, actually, we'll finish what you're saying before I go on a little rant about what Evelina's saying about Argentina.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking, but at the risk of upsetting, because I don't want to upset Evelina, you know.
I don't either, but if she's going to defend Argentina, then I don't know.
But she's living in
But
Argentina.
Evelina, if you put the cockroach junta party with the Argentine, with Malay, you know, maybe they could sort out Malay, you know, the cockroach junta party. They could rip him apart
Right. But at
like
the
the
end of the
Mexican wrestlers.
yeah, but at the Giovanni Lo Celso, is that really a Hispanic name? It's really not. Leandro. Okay, Leandro maybe. I'm looking at some of the names of the national team.
Lionel Messi.
Yeah, that's a very Italian name.
That's very
Grazie,
Italian.
signore. Like you have a better chance of ordering a good old style Neapolitan pizza in Italy than in Buenos Aires than you do in like St. Louis.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, not every when you look at every president of Argentina, not every none of them even sound and even profoundly Aladdin. Like Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. It has that every single one of them has that Italian slang, like
They do.
Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner.
De Kirchner,
And
grazie.
also, I feel I'm so sorry to any Italians if I upset you.
No, Oh, it's all good. Buonasera, signore. Don't worry about that.
Buonasera.
You know.
Buonasera.
Buongiorno, signore.
Signore and
Como stai? Como
senorita.
stai? Like, Javier Milei, va fanculo, Javier Milei. Well, like, no. Yeah,
My
it's a
friend's actually
bastardo
probably made it to
insignificante.
Italy by now. He's on a Mediterranean cruise, so he's gone to Roma and he's gone to Napoli.
Yeah, but the point being is he's absolutely right. They sound more Italian than, like, Juan Musso. Does that sound like a Spanish guy or an Italian guy? I'll just read off some of the Emiliano Martinez. Emiliano. That's a very Italiano name.
It is.
You know. Or freaking
Italy weren't even at the Italy didn't even qualify, did they? They weren't
no,
at
they did. They
the,
haven't qualified for the World Cup in like since 2010. It's actually pretty bad. So I mean,
pretty
all the
bad.
Italians must be living through Messi and Argentina. You know what's crazy though? Guess what country really loves Lionel Messi for some weird reason?
Who?
Indian people. India.
Oh, India.
For some reason, like, oh, Messi, he's the GOAT, he's so great, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'd rather watch Kylian Mbappe play soccer. Fuck you, assholes. But then again, Latin Americans, for some reason, love 1980s music. But I mean, they love 80s music. I mean, they love listening to music like Phil Collins and Hall & Oates and frickin' like Steve Winwood.
What
So I
about
guess
Wayne?
people...
Pick me up before you go.
Yeah, they like that music for some reason. I don't know why, but it is what it is. I'm just looking at some of the names of Argentina, like Nicolas Tagliafico. Like, I'm reading it off right now. Lisandro Martinez, Gonzalez Montiel. Yeah, these guys are like straight up guineas, for lack of a
Evelyn
better
is just
term.
saying Bangladesh loves Messi.
Well, yeah, it's South Asia.
Yeah, but Evelyn is mentioning Bangladesh. She says Bangladesh loves Macy.
Yeah, that's South Asian people, like whatever. That doesn't change what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't know why Evelina's so upset about it when it's like, this is kind of their reputation in South America and even Latin America. Like, the Argentines don't really care about anybody else.
Well, she lives in Argentina.
Well, that's great that she does, but again, they got a horrible. I mean, not that Latin America is great when it comes to racism. They're not. I mean, colorism is everywhere, but they kind of like make it worse.
But I wouldn't say that. I mean, Brazil literally made racism illegal there.
Maybe they'll have a statue to Messi now, like Adonis, in Italy. Maybe they'll have a big statue to him, like.
I mean, they might as well. They don't have any like World Cup heroes worth celebrating anymore. I mean, what are they gonna do? Bring freaking what are they gonna do? Bring the 2006 national team from the grave? Like, what the fuck? They don't got nobody anymore. But yeah, they're kind of fucked in that aspect.
Actually, I just realised I'm not sure where the next FIFA World Cup is at
2030.
now. Sorry?
2030.
Yeah, I realise that, but I mean, where it's going to be?
It's going to be between 6 countries. It's going to be in Western Europe, but it's also going to be in like Argentina, Brazil. Like, it's weird because it's going to be like shared in 2 continents. Like, someone's going to be in Portugal and Spain, but others are going to be in Argentina and Brazil.
Oh, wow.
It's really weird the way they do
weird.
it.
That's
I know.
weird.
But yeah, I mean, if they want to bring back guys like, now I'm thinking about it. Fuck, I'm
but
looking
of course,
at something.
according to the Grand Emperor, we all know who I'm talking about now. He says that the next World Cup will be without Canada and Mexico. And of course he won't be around to see it. Of course.
Yeah, it's going to be one big United States, according to him. He's, like we said, the madman.
Yeah.
Thinking of which, I got. Shall we talk about Hungary now?
Yes.
Yeah, let's
Catalan,
get to
yeah.
Hungary and how Israel ruined Hungary.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Eh, just before we get on the next subject, Evelina's made a good point about Catalan. That's Catalonia, which and the de facto person who's the is Carlos Puigdemont of Catalonia, and Catalonia are basically a breakaway state from the rest of Spain and the control of
Yeah,
Madrid. And Queen Leonor will have to deal with this when she becomes crowned the queen.
yeah, I gotta to be honest, I kind of feel bad for her if she has when she has to deal. She's gonna have to deal with this situation.
yeah, I do. I feel bad for her too, knowing that she's surrounded by a bunch of white supremacists.
Mm,
That's pretty bad.
mm, mm.
But yeah, no, I mean, as for like Messi, it's like, well, he's got a lot of Italian blood from his
Hmm.
father's side and his great grandfather's side, so I don't really know what to say about all that. I mean, his wife is pretty much Italian too. I mean, her name is Anton Antonella Rocuzzo. That doesn't sound very Hispanic to me.
No.
Um,
It's, I was gonna say it's almost like like with the United States. Everybody's got
She's a
various
monarch,
last names, but
Evelina's saying.
Argentina is supposed to be. When you look at the indigenous Argentinians, forget about that. Like you said, they're making it almost like a U.S. Where it's just people
Yeah,
from all over.
yeah. Anyway, so I'm just reading this now. Lionel Messi, his father side is of Italian and Spanish descent, the great grandson of immigrants from North Central Adriatic March region of Italy. And then his mother's side is primarily Italian ancestry.
Okay.
So you could probably speak Italian to him as well as you can speak Spanish to him.
Hmm.
You know,
And Evelina says many Argentines intermarried. Yeah, that's what we have with the U.S.
that
too.
is true. But at the end of the day, 70% of Argentines are European. 63% of them are Italian, and 7% of them are Nazis. I mean German. So I mean, you know,
Well, that's the thing too, is the fact that you have certain people, like on the right, and they'll always talk about getting rid of the original people. It's just horrible.
the whole situation's horrible. I do agree with that. No matter how much we make fun of Alvalina for being Argentinian. So
But it's any country, and you look at
yeah,
Latin America and different countries that go around, and it's
yeah,
like the indigenous people are the ones.
yeah,
Oh, they want to get rid of indigenous people and bring in
yeah.
people from all over.
Yeah, the indigenous people, no matter where they go, get screwed. So it's kind of messed up. And South America, it's like Latin America in general, especially even in Mexico. There's a lot of colorism there too. Like if
it's
you're black and you're Mexican, if you're black and you're Latin, you deal with a lot of more bullshit than if you're like light skinned.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Like
especially, yeah, I have a friend who lives in the. I have a friend who lives in the Dominican Republic, and racism is so alive, and
yeah,
colorism is so alive. Like the lighter you are, or the straighter your hair is, that somehow that means you're better, and it's ridiculous, and it's bullshit. And we saw and we saw this Dominican racism happen, and it actually happened during and especially back in the New York primaries, which I'm sure people are aware. Espiat was the congressman in New York was ousted was ousted in a primary race, and that primary race in this district was riddled with racist with racism from the Dominican community there, claiming that Espiat's primary opponent was what is too happens to be too black to be Dominican, or even pushing anti-Haitian racism, and claiming that she's Haitian, and that's a huge another different story that's a huge historical thing that's going to take up too much time.
Mm.
But yeah,
It
racism.
will.
Racism happens a lot, and it's been, it doesn't just happen in certain, in one specific race. It's a racism is occurring everywhere from different races,
Hmm.
and
Agreed.
that's why I think, and that's why I hate it. It's ridiculous. It's racism is ridiculous. It's bullshit. Like, no race is superior. Like, you don't
No.
feel like, I don't, like, I'm pretty sure Dolores, I'm sure you don't wake up master race.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy that people believe that stuff.
It's sad more than crazy, but yeah, it's absurd. Especially when certain people, like we talked about this before, they quote unquote believe in the master race, but yet they do nothing to quote unquote save their race. Like, how many of these idiots talk about how like the white race is dying, but do nothing to like save it in like the most primitive ways possible? Like, if they cared that much about saving the white race, that have as many pure, sorry, Wayne, but they'd have as many pure white children as possible, and they'd be helping their fellow white nationals build communities like Arval in their own lands instead of just going online and crying about why like the world sucks and why racism and immigration's a problem. That's why these people are retarded. But I don't want to go on that rant again because I mean it'd be the third week in a row where I do it and it's kind of boring. And it also doesn't help that they suck up to the same people that are genociding Palestinians, so they're also cucked. I feel bad for Wayne. He was like a pure white Australian guy, and then now he's got to live with the fact that his people are like so retarded. But not that Indians are any better; they're really not. Yeah.
But, but anyway, shall we move on to Hungary?
Let's move on to Hungary.
Let's move on to Hungary. Speaking of Eastern Europeans that are trying to save their race. All right, go on, Dinar.
Yes, that's. I'm sure fully of you are aware, Peter. Ever since the Fidesz has been led by far right Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been ousted. Tisza, led by Peter Magyar, is currently the next prime minister, and right now he is basically on a full on anti Orban campaign, which or as I like to call it, de-Orbanization in Hungary. And one of the biggest things he did is he basically forced out the president, the president, Thomas Sulyak, from the position. Sulyak is actually a member. It may be it's an independent, but he's been profoundly supported by Fidesz. And he's only been in office from 2024. Now he's ousted, and from to now July 19, 2026. And so he's basically, and that's what's been, and that's been, there's been basically a whole back and forth between Sulyak and Magyar. Well, Sulyak basically said he's willing to work with Magyar. Magyar did not really trust him, mainly because he was backed by Fidesz, and basically, and to Magyar, anything that's profoundly Fidesz got to go. And so his party basically, and since his party has as a supermajority, he basically passed a constitutional convention, which basically allows the parliament to basically oust their own president. And surprisingly, Sulyak did not fight it. He basically signed the amendment, and he willfully resigned.
Hmm. I guess he just thought, yeah,
I'm guessing my biggest guess is that he probably saw the writing on the wall, and there's no and at any time of fighting this is going to be a losing battle, both
right.
especially from the public, which is especially from a public who has been basically who has basically been tired of having to deal with Orban for so many years. So
Yes.
So as of right now, Agnes Forshofer, who is the Speaker of the National Assembly, she's taken up the role as acting president. And
Okay.
so there's going to be an upcoming there's going to be a presidential an indirect presidential election. In Hungary, presidents aren't elected by the people; they're directly, but they're indirectly elected. Mainly, Parliament gets to elect the president. And right now, there's currently two candidates, two, two people who express interest in who are running for the presidency. That is Gabor Ivani, a Methodist pastor and humanitarian, and Peter Markizé, the prime minister, who was the prime ministerial candidate for Hungary during the 2022 parliamentary election. But what many people end up expecting to be the next president is Judith Polgar, who is the who is the who is a chess grandmaster.
Hmm.
But she, even though he briefly even though in July 2026, where Bulgar basically was briefly floated by Prime Minister Magyar and his party to potentially as a potential candidate this in the election,
Okay.
she basically turned it down. She ultimately declined to be considered, saying that she did not feel enough strength within her to take on the historical responsibility of uniting a divided nation. So she's basically out, and so right now it's whoever going to be president is still to be determined. But right now, Magyar is basically steamrolling through his anti-Orban and Orban campaign in Hungary, and ousting the president was seen as a is basically seen as a colossal victory for him.
Hmm. Like you said, it's so divided there. Who knows how things are going to move forward.
Yeah, especially considering considering the fact that there's still Fidesz is still dealing with the fact they're still dealing with the fact that they were basically ousted in a landslide, and their president has basically been ousted from office. So the so Magyar is basically on a mission to take out any sorts of and anything that Fidesz controls bit by bit. And so far he's basically succeeding, and taking he's basically taking apart every part of Orban's infrastructure that Orban himself put in place to basically help consolidate his power.
Hmm.
A consolidation which I like to remind people backfire horribly in 2026. Back in April. Sorry, back in April. So yeah, so it's not. So yeah, and as far Magyar is basically successful, and he's considered one of the most um, politicians popular politicians in Hungary.
What's his name again?
Peter Magyar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Hungary plays a big part. When we look at the UN with the direction, because Autobahn was so with Israel.
Yeah, and but that's basically what's been going on in Hungary. Anyone want to comment?
So
Hard.
basically, the same people ruining Argentina are the same people ruining Hungary, correct?
Well, I want to say that it's definitely people who are trying to, fix the damages that's been done by by the previous government. Um, like I said before, during when I talked about the Hungarian election, I pointed out my concerns about Peter Magyar, because because like I said, Magyar is a basically seen as a center to center right politician. But my biggest concern is that he was part of Fidesz. He was part of Fidesz and part of Orban's inner circle, which is why I have have some concerns. But he's basically doing a good job of basically erasing anything that the Orban has put his fingers on in Hungary.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And he did
But
a good. And he made a good vote too at the
yeah,
UN. You know, because before, um, Hungary was against the ICC and all of that with South Africa with the case, and he supports it with the
yeah,
case.
yeah. All right, I gotta read some funny comments from Evelina. She says, harsh feels sorry for Princess Leonor. So partial to Spain, he has empathy for a monarchy. I mean, she's not bad looking, but no, I don't really. No, but in all fairness, no, I don't really care that much for monarchies. It's just the whole, like I said, what Denard said earlier, it comes to a lot of the racism they dealt with, you know. And the fact that like Messi kissed the wall and Millier kissed the wall while like, Lamal is like hanging up like holding up like Palestinian, and the team is holding up Palestinian flags. Like I'm just saying, you know. So, like yeah. So I just wanted to say that with Evelina. She also says, I get the human perspective, but we can't forget political context ever. Same for Argentina. Israel's trying to isolate it for the takeover. That's so hard to say because, like, on one hand, yeah, Israel does what Israel does, but on the other hand, like Denard said, and even I've mentioned, it's like they kind of do it to themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
As spa cards are racist, exception the left. Spaniards, I know. No, I won't disagree with that, especially Spaniards. They think, they also think they're better than everyone else. It's just, I don't know. You see a lot of Spaniards with the Palestinian flags and all that. It's kind of hard to say for sure, Like,
I
at
think
least it's different with Argentina. You don't really see that as much.
Yeah, I would say Spain's. I don't know much about Spain's how they deal with racism, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure, but I'm sure but you know I try to keep it, try to keep everything, you know
Yeah.
to put everything make sure everything's in the radar. And I would give the Spain credit this when one of their own soccer players was holding a Palestinian flag. Israel basically tried to basically try to say, "Hey, Spain, tell him he's not allowed to play." And in Spain, it basically responded by telling Israel, "Piss off." Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Like, I won't say Spain's not racist because they are a Western European country that thinks they're like, above like a lot of the people in Latin America, probably. But I haven't been there in like damn near 18 years, so I can't say too much. But I will say, it's like you see a lot more Palestinian support in Spain and a lot less Israel worship than you see in Argentina. So it's very hard for me to just say they're both the same when they're not.
Yeah, it
You know. And it also doesn't help that members of the Third Reich also went from Germany to Argentina either. So that doesn't really help.
yeah. In Germany,
Right.
every kid is asking why their grandpapa lives in Argentina now. Hmm?
Right, exactly. Well, Dada, why does grandfather Herschel live in Buenos Aires instead of in Munich? Well, son, it's because of the Third Reich. But I don't understand this comment. She says, Herschel, sorry for Princess Leonor. It's like, If I wanted to base it based on attractive women, wouldn't I side with the Argentines over the Spaniards? I'm just saying. Like, if you really want to use the play that card, but I mean, But again, the point being is, it's kind of silly seeing like how. No, she is right about paper, but it's silly seeing like how we don't really talk about the Argentinians and Argentines unless it's soccer, and it's kind of crazy how we just like sweep all their racism under the brush, but yet every other person's racism is mentioned. She says most of them went to the USA recruited. She quoted Operation Paperclip, which is true with the brown shirts. The fact that Werner von Braun went from Germany to America and took over NASA tells you everything you need to know about it. But yeah, I'm sorry, the Argentines kind of have to own it. Like, a lot of them have to own it. If the Israelis have to own their racism, then so do the Argentines. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate saying shit like that, but they got to own it, right?
Right,
I mean,
because you always
you're
bring
not
up
wrong.
now with India, with racism in India too.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of colorism there too. It's horrible. I'll be the first to say it. That's why a lot of Indian people can't stand me, and for good reason. I'm like, yeah, you guys are assholes. You guys are losers and you're assholes. So fuck all of you. So yeah, again, I deal with it all the time. I see it all the time in the Indian community, so I get it. Like, I'll be the first to call it casteism and colorism. But it seems like there's double standards for it.
Yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that during the when the players were shaking hands of the FIBA president, the president of the United States, and even the president of Mexico was there, and the prime minister of Canada. Many of the Argentinian players I noticed were actively snubbing Claudia Scheinbaum.
Yeah. I mean, that's nice to know.
I'm like, wow. This is exactly like I said, Argentina is one of the disgraceful, the bigoted, most petty, entitled little twats I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong about that. I mean, I feel bad for him. We all love her, but it's like sad that she's got to listen all of this. But at the same time, it needs to be said, right? We can't just, pick and choose when to be unfiltered, right? Yes. On the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, in real life, sure, but on this show, no. But no, I don't know, Dolores, you're so silent. What are your thoughts on all this?
Okay, Melina says most of the players are mixed race.
Yeah, they're mixed race, but they got a lot of European blood in them too. At the end of the day, 70% of Argentines are of European descent. I'm just
a lot of Argentina, because a lot of Europe went over there.
Yeah, and again, they don't.
And the same thing with all through South America. You had Europeans, and then North America as well. It seems all the Europeans were just going elsewhere.
Right, Europeans ruin most of the world, and they're complete idiots and destroying their own society. That's fine, but at the same time, it doesn't help the fact that, again, the Argentines do not consider themselves a part of Latin America. They don't consider themselves Latinos. They don't consider themselves a part of the diaspora. So yeah, any negative criticisms in regards to them is valid. I'm sorry, it just is. I mean, Denard, am I sounding crazy for saying that?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so, because it's concerning the fact Argentina, like I said, many Argentinians don't consider themselves part of the Latino community. Many see themselves more as Europeans. I mean,
right.
I pointed out that quote, and there's quotes from the former president of Argentina himself, who was supposed to be center left, but yet said made a racist comment.
Yeah. Right. Evelina says indigenous, Italian, and Spanish. Also some Afro way back. Yeah, they may have like some native ancestry, but again, a lot of them still are predominantly European. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and they mainly wiped out most of the indigenous population to the point where the indigenous and non-white Argentinian population is basically down to 1%.
Right. She says Alberto was an idiot. Well, it's nice she says that. I don't.
Yeah, that's nice. Um, now, now on to yes, it's worth pointing out about the upcoming Israel election.
That's
Good
going to be something. That's
God.
crazy right now.
Mm, yes, yeah,
Why do
I
you
know
keep talking about Israel, Denard? You sound like an anti-Semite for saying that. Aren't you
that
grateful that we gave you rights? Aren't you grateful you
aren't
get to
you
be black and gay with that concept?
are you grateful that daddy gets to bail you out? Mm,
I know, right?
Any,
I hate
any,
those. God.
anyway, so as of
It's
right
like
now,
the new Indian accent. I'm sorry, I can't resist.
anyway, anyway, the Knesset basically the Knesset basically ended their session and basically ended their session and because it's basically fulfilling their basically for completing their full 4-year term. So now there's an election going on in happening on October 27th this month. And this is going to be and many people are having their eyes on this election, maybe because and there's one question, and that's basically hanging in the air, and that is this going to be the end of Netanyahu's career? Is now now there are currently major and there are only like four major candidates, well, three major parties that are running in this election. And that is the Likud party, currently led by current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is now seeking another term. Another term. The Together Party, the Together Party, which is it's basically a coalition made by Natali Bennett's new party, the party, and Yair Lapid's Yesh Yatid, and Yashar, who that was from that's founded by former IDF chief of staff Gadi Eisenkot, was a was a former who many now see as the dark horse candidate for this race, and many see as the likely chance of becoming prime minister. Now, Together and Yashar is basically running on a centrist campaign, but also running on domestically. It's basically centrist, it's basically centrist. But when it comes as we know, their foreign policy is basically the same thing, which is basically attack Iran and potentially attack Turkey. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing they have in common is that Benjamin Netanyahu has got to go.
Yes.
Right, and I wanted to ask you about that. Supposedly, Mom Donnie has said if Netanyahu comes back when he comes back to New York City, if when he comes back to New York City, that he plans on having Netanyahu arrested. My question is, how is he going to pull that off, or if he's even going to try to pull it off?
Actually, I was going to point that out. Mondani actually came out and said that clearly there it's beyond arresting Netanyahu is basically beyond his capabilities, and so he actually had to come out with a come out and basically say, yeah, I can't. Yeah, technically, I cannot. The city cannot technically arrest a foreign individual, a foreign leader, and a political official. But and most likely, and it's also not going to happen, especially while Trump is in office.
Mm-hmm.
And and frankly, and I would like to point out, Mandami, that it's probably he's probably not going to get arrested even if a Democrat's in office.
That
Um,
is true. Yeah, I've noticed that with Netanyahu. Like they always talk a good game, but push come to shove, they're always said, "Oh, well, it's out of our jurisdiction." So
yeah,
yeah,
and
I'm
it's
not
also
surprised by that.
yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that that the United States is not part of the ICC, and just
Also
recently,
true.
yeah, and it's just recently they basically sanctioned one of the ICC judge who issued the arrest warrant against Netanyahu.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, Dolores. I remember a few months ago we were talking about how Netanyahu was dead because of the AI videos they were using to portray his speeches, and then now, if he's still alive, it's just I don't get
You
it.
don't know if that's a clone, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's why they can't arrest him because he's cloned.
We
Yeah,
don't know.
They could do a
but
DNA test of him and realize he's not Netanyahu. So
but yeah, but I think it's worth. I think it's worth pointing out. But I think but since and given who Netanyahu is and given what Netanyahu is currently doing, and that the election is going on, that it's happening, and that he's now fighting for another term on top of the criminal investigations. I think it's worth pointing out who this person is. Is as it and we need to so Anis, we need to break out what kind of person who Netanyahu is, how he rose into power, and the comp and his impact in the Middle East, and his attempts and his pesky habit of surviving.
Hmm.
It's also worth putting and that a man's he is so significant, and it's worth pointing out that Benjamin Netanyahu is primarily focused, is significantly focused on staying in power. He allied with the most extremist voice in his country. So the extremist voice,
well, that's because we all know if he's out of power, he's probably going to get arrested by his own government.
Yes.
yeah, it's what
And they might
so
just do that just to get him out of the picture, not because they actually believe he's wrong either.
yeah. So many people. So who is Netanyahu? Well, it's worth pointing out that he grew up with a father who was a well-known, prominent, and known for promoting an uncompromising form of Zionism, known as revisionist Zionism,
Hmm.
which is focusing on the use for a military force strong enough to compel the Arabs to accept a Jewish state on their native land. Bibi was actually spent most of his formative years in the U.S., attending high school in Philadelphia. And in the mid 20s, his brother Yoni, a commander in the IDF, was killed while rescuing more than 100 Israelis who was taken hostage after a plane hijacking, and he was hailed as a national hero. And then following that, Bibi, who was still living in the U.S. and going by Ben Nite, began to get more attention, and he got pretty good at arguing Israel's cases. If there's one, if you, I'm sure if you people in here or some of you have looked up that a Boston area state TV show where he basically made an argument on on Israel on Israel's self determination and Arabs' role in it, and the Arabs' role. But over the years, this then he began he decided to go back to Israel and get into politics. And after returning Israel to politics, Netanyahu got into internet primarily when he got back into politics. He basically focused on international diplomacy, becoming the ambassador to the UN, and ultimately moved into as a chair, moved to become the chair of the right wing Likud party, where he made his name campaigning against the historic Oslo Accord. They which most people say it famously laid out a framework for Israel and negotiating peace with the Palestinians. And Netanyahu, in particular, railed against the prime minister who signed those accords, on Israel's behalf, Yitzhak Rabin.
Hmm.
And Bibi went scorched earth, even speaking at an infamous rally where crowds burned images of Rabin in a Nazi uniform and chanted for his death. Just a month later, he was assassinated by a far right extremist, and many blamed Netanyahu for stoking the anger, and that led to his assassination, including Rabin's widow, who is still alive, who is currently still alive. Like,
Yeah, and at that time too, that's when Ben Gavir he stole something from the car, Rabin's car.
yeah,
Talking about the
yeah, he took the
95 assassination, right?
Yeah, that was his
yeah,
The one where he
assassination.
had like the peace deal all sorted out and then he got assassinated.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, he was actually part of a then and it's also worth pointing out that Netanyahu was part of a mock funeral procession before Rabin's death, which with a coffin labeled "Rabin killed Zionism" in Hebrew. And
Oh,
there's an
disgusting.
actual film of him that being right in front of that crowd. In front, which honestly, the only way they should give any more on the nose, if he held a sign reading plausible deniability and burned that too. Then, now, in the wake of Rabin's assassination, many thought Netanyahu was politically finished. But the next year, there was a series of suicide bombings primarily led by Hamas, seemed to turn the public mood towards his case, and that pursuing peace was pointless. And Netanyahu was elected prime minister for the first time in 1996. In his position that he served in on and off for 17 years, for 17 of the last 30 years, making him the most longest serving prime minister in Israel's history. And a key claim he repeatedly made is boasting that he can bring the U.S. in along with whatever he does. And there's been a uploaded footage of Netanyahu that's been spreading around social media for years of him basically during his period out of power, basically to talking to settlers in the West Bank and explaining that if back in charge, he'd be able to aggressively support them and convince America to back him. And you can
Yeah,
find
he's a
that
snake.
that footage has been spreading around social media.
He's a snake.
Yeah, and if I heard someone on my staff say, "I know, I know how to get Denard to do exactly what you want," he wants, and I would immediately call for suspicion.
Yeah.
I'll be furious.
Yeah.
Look, and this is um
If someone said, I know how to get harsh, what and how to use harsh to get what I want, it would be more than suspicion. I'm just saying.
yeah,
It'd be a hell of a
and
lot worse than that. It
yeah,
really,
and
because that's ridiculous.
yeah, and Bibi has had a lot of success in pushing America, particularly with Republican presidents and especially with Donald Trump. In
Well,
fact,
that's okay. Yeah, go on with the Trump thing because I'll mention another thing in regards to that.
yeah, in fact, it was during Trump's first term that Netanyahu celebrated what he considered the greatest foreign policy triumph, the Abraham Accords, which normalized diplomatic relations with several Arab states, most notably the UAE, and Bahrain. And it was a plan supported by Jared Kushner, who Trump, of course, put him in
Yeah.
charge of fixing the Middle East. During his first term, even though he always looks like even though Jared Kushner always looks like he got his haircut from sitting in a plastic race car chair. The thing about the Abraham Accords was that it was they got those other nations to abandon the long-standing conditions that many Arab countries along with many Arab countries that relationship with Israel could only come after the establishment of a Palestinian state. Netanyahu, Netanyahu's thinking was what if you could just get enough Arab nations to do that, you could basically freeze the Palestinians out.
Right. And speaking of Netanyahu, this might have been before your time because I know you're like 21 years old. But I
26,
remember.
actually.
Okay, good. So me may or may not remember this. Anyway, uh, I remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when everyone made such a big deal about the Monica Lewinsky scandal. But here's the thing, though. Bill Clinton, like the Israeli government wanted like Jonathan Pollard not to get arrested. They wanted him to be free. They wanted him to be freed for, stealing, secrets and some to the Russians and all that garbage, right?
Yeah.
And Netanyahu was like, look, if you don't release Jonathan Pollard, we're going to release what's happening with you and Monica Lewinsky. And then and that's how the Monica Lewinsky scandal started, because President Clinton actually stood up to Netanyahu on that one situation.
Wow.
So that's how it actually started. Because if he just played ball with Israel and said, oh, yeah, we'll let Jonathan Pollard go for fucking us over and selling secrets to the Russians, there would have been no Monica Lewinsky scandal. But because Bill Clinton said no, that's what it all came out. So that tells you how long they've been blackmailing U.S. presidents.
Wow.
That was before you were born.
Wow. And it's also worth pointing out that he's continuing to push. He's been actively pushing Saudi Arabia to sign on next. But it's worth knowing. Many observers have warned that these accords were always just going to end up further marginalizing Palestinians. And I was going to say, and of course, many people with a brain can tell that these Abraham Accords was basically Israel's ways of saying "fuck you" to the Palestinians. It shouldn't be surprising. Everything Netanyahu does has that as a side effect. If he can pour a bowl of cereal in a way that makes conditions in Gaza meaningfully worse, he would do that. And I don't think that he doesn't. I don't think he doesn't have Israel's top geopolitical cereal scientists working on that. On how to make that dream come true. But obviously, while many people focus on Netanyahu's foreign policy, he's also a domestic leader. And at home, his time in office has increasingly been defined by his clear attempt to cling to power.
Yeah.
Even as he's facing allegations of corruption, including charges of bribery and fraud in 3 separate cases. And while he denies those charges, to run through them very quickly, the first accuses him of accepting nearly $300,000 in gifts, including cigars and champagne from prominent businessmen. And I will say, it is not a great look that one of those businessmen has testified that Bibi and his wife, the wife, used code words for those gifts, with cigar being called leaves and champagne called roses, which is just inherently suspicious. And people only use code words for illicit activities.
Yes.
As anyone has been disappointed by a Craigslist ad offering to go skiing with Tina Turner that has discovered.
Yeah.
But in 2 other cases, both accused him of quid pro quos involving major news platforms, including a newspaper and a website Walla. And in that case, prosecutors has to say he grants regulatory favors to the owners of Walla in exchange for positive coverage of himself and his wife, and the former editor in chief was actually testifying how particular Netanyahu could be. By saying Netanyahu wanted positive coverage so that anyone who visits the Walla frequently would think he's the King David of Israel, and that he's the wonderful leader leading Israel. He wanted his wife to be pleased, said that she looked good in photographs. And yeah, I'm sorry. Sarah's wife, I'm sorry. His wife Sarah doesn't. No matter how many times you take pictures of her, she does not look good. Hmm?
I know she looks
She looks,
evil.
yeah, she
That
looks
sounds
like
about right.
yeah, she looks like if Chucky's wife Tiffany wished to become to be a real woman and fired horribly.
Yeah, it's maddening. The look in her eyes, and then when she smiles, it's just like it's
Yeah,
like
they're evil people. What do you expect? That's why so many of their like, even so many like celebrities age like crap because of it. Because they're just evil pieces of shit. You know.
and I was like, come on,
Yeah,
doesn't she have anybody to try to transform her or do something? You know?
No, she clearly doesn't.
yeah,
Even some of their
but yeah,
fashion models age like shit really quickly.
yeah,
Like within
and
5, 10 years, they look like fucking ill.
yeah, and Netanyahu is supposed was actually supposed to finish testifying this year,
Yeah.
but has tried to drag out the process to the point it could take years to reach a verdict. And crucially, if convicted, he could be sentenced to up to 10 years of imprisonment for bribery charges and up to 3 for fraud and breach of trust, which is a lot for a guy pushing 76.
Yeah.
Who's allegedly spent years mainlining some free cigars and champagne.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not only and he's not the it is also worth pointing out that he's not the only one in his family who enjoys a lavish lifestyle. And his
Mm-hmm.
right? And that includes his wife Sarah, his current wife Sarah, which I might have to point out is his third wife. And I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm sorry. It's hard. I'm starting to see a pattern of autocratic bureaucrats having 3 wives. I know it's kind of a nose on the nose there. Um, yeah, she's
If they
she's
have
actually
3 wives, are we sure they're not Muslim? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, God. I'm sorry. I had to say that.
or a Mormon. Hmm?
Yeah, Mormon, them too.
Yeah. Anyway, his wife Sarah. She's actually been called Israel's Marie Antoinette, and has been accused of abusive behavior
Yeah.
to her household staff, which she both denies and has twice paid out damages for. Um, Bibi and Sarah have also been accused of misspending taxpayer money from $1,700 of scented candles to $127,000 to have a plane fitted with a double bed to attend the funeral of Margaret Thatcher. And to be fair, the scented candles and the sight as to be clear, the scented candles and the sight of Thatcher's corpse, that's the they need the people were very happy about that. I'm just saying a lot of people did not like Margaret Thatcher back then, and for
No.
good reasons. Now, in 2019, Sarah had even accepted a plea bargain to settle accusations she spent $100,000 in public funds and to order meals from celebrity chefs. And
Mm.
I cannot think of a single celebrity chef I would spend that much on,
No.
except for Gordon Ramsay. That's the only one. That's the only exception. That's the only exception I would take. I would take.
I mean, it depends what type of cuisine you want. Gordon Ramsay's great with Indian food, but I don't know if he's that great with Italian food, though.
Yeah, Wilson. Yeah, you work what you got.
I don't
Um,
know. I mean, for me, Gordon Ramsay would be great because I was like, oh, look, oh, you can cook as well as my aunt. Good for you, Gordon. So, I mean,
yeah. So when those charges first arose, Sarah actually tried to get out in front of them by giving a reality to by giving reality hosts a tour of their official residence, and tried to show off tried to show their current lifestyle, and it did not go well. and tried to show off their modest lifestyle, and seems delighted to have him joke about the squalor that they were forced to live in.
Oh yeah.
With I watched that so many times for the complete displeasure. I think my favorite one was the fact where she showed him the closet. The
Hmm.
closet. She said the host said, "Quote: I think Anne Frank is hiding here in the back."
Oh my.
Wow. Unless there is a second Anne Frank that I'm
Oh
aware
no.
that I'm unaware of, that's a rough reference.
That is.
But-
Ah.
now, while Sarah is giggling and smiling in there, it's worth pointing out she is well known of having a clear temper. And in 2002, she was actually recorded saying, "BB is bigger than this country. Why should we even bother? We'll move abroad, and the whole country can burn." And while I don't need to share you this clip, I do want to, because back in 2009, a newspaper gossip column published an item about Sarah's attending a charity event, but didn't mention her professional credential. It's a slight that she then discussed
Mm.
with one of her aides on a call that it turns out was recorded, and it is a lot. Hmm?
Hmm.
But I actually have the footage right here. I was gonna I could play it if you want. It's in Hebrew, so
No, so no, we can't really know what they're saying.
yeah. So basically, Sarah Netanyahu said we must help the refugees from Darfur. I'm doing it as a professional, as an educated woman, a woman,
Hmm.
a psychologist, BAMA.
Mm.
But yeah, I think the last part is when she really goes off.
Oh my gosh. Well, I heard she's got a very bad temper, and then they say how she's always yelling at BB in the house and
And
all.
yeah, in case if you're wondering what she was saying there, she said this prime minister's wife does public service every day in her professional capacity.
Mm.
It does that is just an iconic meltdown. If that happened today,
Yeah.
if we have been buried under 8 solid months of using the sound psychologist, BAMA.
She's
Um,
she's a mad woman. She really is.
yeah. Now the drum the drum beats of scandals surrounding Netanyahu and his reaction to them had led more centrist parties in Israel to decide they wouldn't form a coalition with him, basically forcing him to drift to the right. Well, so when he returned as prime minister in 2022, it was it was relying heavily on two constituencies,
Hmm.
and even further to the right than his, the ultra orthodox religious parties and far right ultra nationalists. And they are extreme with and that's basically putting it very lightly. Lightly. Because his inner circles it's worth pointing out, inner circles include people like Itamar Ben Gavir, a man
Hmm.
a man once labeled as the David Duke of Israel, a nickname I'm pretty sure would make the actual David Duke's head explode.
Oh yeah, these nut jobs are all in the Knesset because he wanted to remain in power.
Exactly. It's but I still shocked that his nickname, he's clearly labeled as the David Duke of Israel.
Yeah,
It's like someone calling the J.K. Rowling of trans people. Like, how? How does that work exactly?
yeah.
Like, and it's worth knowing that Netanyahu was deeply aware of how extremely unhinged and racist Ben Gvir is. But he was forced to basically put him in his coalition in order to stay in power. And Netanyahu gave him a horrific role as Minister of National Security. Security. And he is a hardline believer in the settler movement, which is worth pointing we've discussed before. This is before on
Yes.
in this podcast. That aims to establish enough settlements in the occupied West Bank to essentially annex the territory. And despite the world and international law recognizing it as the settlements as illegal. And Ben-Gvir's history of extremism goes way back though. And on his first date with his future wife, they visited the grave of an extremist settler who in 1994 gunned down 29 Muslim worshippers, which
Hmm.
just reflect badly on him. It reflects badly on his wife too, because
Yeah,
that
he had a
should
picture of him on the living room wall.
because that should raise a lot of questions, and none of them being, do you want to go on a second date?
It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out that Ben Gvir, shortly before Rabin's assassination, bragged about having gotten close enough to Rabin's car and steal his hood ornament.
Hmm.
And that is chilling.
It
And
is.
And for what it's worth, I'm not even sure Rabin would have gotten that message, because when he noticed his hood ornament was gone, I'm guessing he thought, "Oh shit, some asshole stole my little Cadillac thing from
Yeah.
my hood," and not, "Uh-oh, I shouldn't have signed the Oslo Accord.
Hmm.
I better unsign it before they come back and for my hubcaps." But since then, Ben-Gvir has actually been convicted at least on 8 charges, including supporting a terrorist organization and incitement to racism. In fact, it's worth noting he is so fringe that the IDF actually rejected his mandatory service.
Yeah, that's how extreme he is.
Yeah. In fact, as recently as 3 years ago, Netanyahu refused. And like I said before, it's worth noting that 3 years ago, Netanyahu refused to share a stage with him, or even be seen with him in photographs.
Yeah.
Once saying he was not fit to be a member of his government. But of course, he very much is, and he very much is because the Bibi needs to stay in power more.
Yeah. Yeah, he was too dangerous for the IDF. And he has a history of terrorism. In they call him a Jewish terrorist, and there he is in the Knesset now.
Yeah. Mm. And now you can find multiple pictures of Netanyahu was smiling gleefully with basically a fascist. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Bezalel Smotrich, Netanyahu's current finance minister. Smotrich once called himself a proud homophobe and held and organized anti-gay beast parades, as if that the phrase "beast parade" didn't already sound like the most out and proud thing on earth.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like a brand of poppers that's been recalled.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fire. It sounds like a fire party where the only dress code is edible.
Mm.
But yeah, it is also worth noting that Smotrich is a willful provocateur, often saying things like "There is no such thing as a Palestinian in the Knesset and on the floor of the Knesset,"
Yeah.
and he has done that multiple times. And it's also, and while and and while he clearly saying that to get a reaction there, the phrase "there's no such thing as a Palestinian people" also sounds like something that Smulders says to help him climax. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, this man, that man is clearly shown to be an unapologetic extremist. He suggested that he once suggested that starvation of Gaza and Gaza civilians, a war crime. I might remind you, it may be just immoral. He also led the call for the West Bank to be annexed, and that just two of the to use a polite term, absolute nightmares central to Netanyahu's coalition, with another key constituency being the ultra orthodox. Now, one of the group's biggest concerns is preserving a religious exemption that allows them to skip mandatory military service requires of most young Israelis, and that exemption is understandably pretty unpopular in Israel, with resentment only growing as the war in Gaza dragged on. But Netanyahu showed himself to be absolutely committed to delivering for his extremists to hold his government together. And,
Mm-hmm.
together. And a big flashpoint came in early 2023 when he moved against the Israel judiciary, specifically its Supreme Court. That is something that far righters wanted for a bunch of reasons. The ultra orthodox were furious that the courts had ruled against their military exemption, and the settlement crowd saw it as an obstacle to the expansion of the West Bank. So Netanyahu, who remember was facing corruption charges, had his own reasons to undermine the courts, pushed for a judicial reform bill, and that substantially reduced its oversight and or government. And that move did not go down well with much of the Israeli public. Really, I'm sure we all saw there were massive protests against Netanyahu and his coalition for against the reform bill.
Definitely.
And that was where things stood for Netanyahu in early 2023. But then, of course, October things in October changed on October 7th, Hamas attacked Israel. Mm, Attacked Israel, killing at least of 1,000 Israelis and taking over at least 200 hostages. And no one would say, and look, no one would specifically say, there's been some profound claims and claims that Netanyahu was personally caused October 7th, and he has, and is also to point out that he definitely ensured that what comes after and will cause exponentially more suffering than might otherwise have been the case. As we as we as we've seen before for years, as it is worth pointing out, and I'm sure here people are sick and tired of this secretary of hearing this, but it's very important to point out that for years that he deliberately allowed Qatar to fund money to Hamas, to Gaza, literally sending suitcases full of money there in the backseat of cars, and he did this to try to keep Hamas in power, as it meant that he didn't have to deal with their more moderate rival, the Palestinian Authority.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive gamble, and it is one that Israeli journalists still still talk about today in utter disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But
also
October 7th was his baby. He's the one that was behind it, Netanyahu.
yeah, and he was open, and let's be clear, Netanyahu was very open about his thinking here. He once told a prominent Israeli journalist that a strong Hamas was actually a good thing, as it meant that a divided Palestinian government, which would lessen the pressure on him to negotiate towards a Palestinian state.
Yes, that
And
was his
sure,
goal.
and it's also worth pointing out, and let's not forget about the fact that infamous Likud party meeting, where he basically told, which basically told told his party that the only way to stop a Palestinian state was to prop up Hamas, and in 2015, Bezos Smotrich basically went on a TV interview and basically gave the whole game away, calling this effort a national delegitimization campaign, and once called Hamas an asset.
Yeah.
Listen, and I'm sure if something's a threat, why not make it more dangerous?
Yeah, but I find it interesting because when they always bring up October 7th, it's like, first of all, you had people coming in parachutes. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the ability to, the damage that was done, they don't have the ammunition to have done that. And the
Yeah,
fact that Israel had the staff off, he told them what that morning everybody was off. There was nobody working the border area. He
yeah,
also had troops that were sent to the West Bank. He also had that festival that was moved closer to the border. And the Hannibal Directive. And it was all Israeli. They're the ones with the airplanes. They're the ones with the heavy machinery. They're the ones with the ammunition. So it was Israel doing it to itself, like Harsh always says. It was the right killing the left.
yeah. And like I said, I was going to point out, it's not the only what it's in, and it is worth pointing out that he basically gambled that he could control Hamas for his political means, and it backfired horribly. And he severely under many believe Israelis believe that he severely underestimated the Hamas's threats. He um he also reportedly blew off on a warning from Israel's internal security chief that a country faced a challenge as its doorstep with Hamas, and as Hamas, and Netanyahu basically dismissed, arguing that Hamas has been deterred, and that's a statement that has frankly aged worse than I don't know, Ellen Ellen DeGeneres had a shirt that says "Be kind to one another," or when Eric Adams gave Sean Combs the keys to the city in New York in 2023. Oh, but yeah, and it's also worth pointing out that Egypt also tried to warn Netanyahu about the potential attack by Hamas, and he blew that one off as well.
Right. So this was Netanyahu's baby.
Yeah, and now Israel is basically embroidered in a war, which, according to Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, scores of experts and investigative committees in the UN, and genocide scholars constitutes a genocide. In fact, last year, the ICC issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and others, charging them with war crimes, and, and those who were charging specifically people, specifically Netanyahu, Gallant, and I believe two Hamas fighters and officials. But there's a problem there, because there's a problem with that arrest warrant because one, two of those Hamas, two of the people two of the Hamas leaders that are on the arrest warrant has been killed by Israel, and one, Yoav Gallant, resigned from the government in protest. So he's basically the only one. But of course, his supporters didn't quite see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
He basically, and one said, and one supporter said, "I'm sorry that the Hague and the International Court cannot appreciate that. Cannot appreciate that." Okay, that's a pretty good sign that you're not not in the right. It's
Well,
and basically, and it's also worth pointing out that a lot of the supporters, especially in the United States government, did not take it very well. It's worth pointing out. That, as I said before, the United States actually sanctioned one of the ICC judges who issued the warrant, and it's been
Yes.
and Marco Rubio has basically gone has been on a all out campaign against the ICC.
Yeah, because the U.S. was in on it too. The U.S. and Europe was in on it too. Because you look at the BBC News, the U.S. News, everything came out with that kook. That was a propagandist. That statement that came out, and everything was proven false of what were the initial statements that were made.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and that and it's it's not that like Netanyahu has been personally responsible. It's also worth pointing out that Netanyahu has been personally responsible to keep wars going and
yes.
keep wars going. Reportings found that at key stages, his decisions extend the fighting in Gaza, and Gaza longer than even Israeli military leaders deemed necessary. For instance, just in March, in March he broke a ceasefire and blamed Hamas for Hamas' refusal to release more hostages before negotiations on ending the war proceeded, even though that was not part of the ceasefire agreement. In reality, it was Netanyahu caving to far-right ministers like Smotrich, who had threatened, if God forbid the war is not resumed, I will bring this government down. Even now, Netanyahu's forge ahead with it's basically continuing. It's continuing to secretly push forward in Gaza, in Gaza,
Hmm.
and actively. And now there's been reports that they're actively building concentration camps. Hmm, in defiance of the ceasefire. Now, and as of Smotrich, he openly talking about annexing Gaza. Hmm,
Sickening.
in Gaza, which he literally called which he personally called quote call it a demolition phase and call it a land renewal. Yeah, he's referring to mass murder and the mass murder and displacement as urban renewal, and that's stenching a euphemism to breaking point. It's basically calling the Trail of Tears high speed mass transit. Uh, that is
Sickening.
that is not remotely what that was. And again, it is impossible to overstate the deaths and suffering Netanyahu's decision caused and the
Hmm.
cause. That's what's pointing over 70,000. The conservative number says that over 70,000 Palestinians have been killed and thousands of children have been are amputated. But like I said, that is a conservative number, and many believe that number is as it might be astronomically higher.
Right.
Hmm. But also worth pointing out the Israeli hostages who've either died or been who died because of his refusal to prioritize their safety and freedom. It is all truly horrifying, and somehow in the midst of all this, during the Trump and he launched the Netanyahu basically convinced the United States to launch two attacks on Iran, claiming that claiming they were on the verge of developing nuclear weapons. Something that he's been claiming for 3 freaking decades now.
Yeah, it's sickening.
And even after the U.S. basically brokered a ceasefire in which and now at this point the U.S. and Iran are basically at a standoff and
Hmm.
a standoff at this point, and, and many are working to try to stop the hostilities. Netanyahu continues to antagonize Iran, which finally seems, which many believe is finally seen to wear Trump's patience, and most importantly, we're now seeing that it's now wearing on Vance's patience, because it's worth
Hmm.
pointing out that Vance actually publicly came out and criticized Israel, which is something we have not seen from any U.S. politician on the Republican side doing, especially in the executive branch.
Exactly.
So that is a very rare moment.
Mm-hmm.
And well, given I'm not surprised, coming from a man who seems to be more attracted to the chair that his wife was sitting on. Mm.
Mm.
And but yeah, I'm never gonna let that go.
No.
But perhaps because of Trump advances irritation, though, not long after that, Netanyahu basically nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize,
That was sickening.
and went on Trump's favorite news network to basically praise Trump. Hmm?
Oh, sickening.
Look, it is very clear that everything that Netanyahu is doing isn't doing. It's his desperate attempt. It's his desperate attempt to stay in power, and it will do wherever it takes, which do whatever it takes. We've seen this once again, where his government, where Netanyahu actually tried to visit the United States and basically manifest a meeting out of thin air, in which the White House actually came out and basically said, "Yeah, we're not going to do that," and
Right.
do that. When many people actually argued that it was Netanyahu's attempt to basically create a PR moment for him and to help him with his election. Um, which on a personal level, it makes sense. If you're facing potential prison terms, you probably want every bit of leverage you can get to avoid that happening. But some Israelis do recognize the dynamic at work here and are understandably furious about it. And
Mm-hmm.
during a protest, and I'm sure you're aware, there's been massive protests against Netanyahu, especially how it's been handling the war in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran,
Definitely.
and with, with Iran, and with men carrying banners saying that Israel betrays hmm, the soldiers. And with one of the protesters saying, he said he sent them to die, he sent them to fight, he sent them to commit war crimes, the war crimes. And when it was asked of what his and when he was asked about what his supporters would say, he he said she said, quote, no, it's basically it makes babies safe, and they believe that when baby's safe, no, we're safe. But I believe the opposite. Hmm?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. He's always run on security. That he's the only one.
Yeah, it's an, it's no secret that Netanyahu is a hard right politician. His
Mm-hmm.
main philosophy, and basically his only philosophy has always been an extreme version of safety through strength. And he
Yeah,
basically ran on that his entire political career, basically coming out and saying, "I'm the only one who will keep you safe."
exactly.
And the thing is, that's kind of the problem. The problem when electing someone, and that's basically a problem with mm, electing someone who's in according to a Netanyahu supporter in the 1990s, an asshole son of a bitch. And I
Yeah,
kidding. That's his Netanyahu when the Netanyahu supporters in 1990s called him, and they were very aware of who Netanyahu was. They're
hmm,
saying we need an asshole son of a bitch. Hmm?
yeah,
Yeah, and because if you elect someone like that, you're gonna wind up someone who is an asshole and a son of is and wind up being governed by someone who is an asshole and a son of a bitch.
yeah,
The point is, Netanyahu is not popular in Israel, and he's increasingly unpopular here in the United States. According according to multiple polls, 21% of Americans have a favorable view of him. Meanwhile, supporters of Palestinian statehood is actually near 60%.
hmm,
And it's worth pointing out. It's also worth pointing out recent a wave of countries, including France, UK, Canada, and Portugal, and Australia, officially recognize a Palestinian state. And it's also worth pointing out that in a recent poll poll in New York City, Jewish Americans support have a high approval of Ramadani and instead of Netanyahu.
Hmm. Exactly. Things are changing. People are seeing more.
In fact, if you look at the map of all the countries that recognize Palestine, it shows
Mhm.
that the U.S. is now one of the few countries and the only permanent members of the Security Council that doesn't. And sure, Netanyahu might claim that he can easily push America back into supporting him, but I don't think that's true this time.
I
That
don't
is
think
true.
so either.
Yeah, I think people have seen a little too much at this point. Hmm?
Yes.
And it's let me be clear. Like I said, it is to attribute the atrocity of Gaza and what's happening in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran to just one man, or at this case, three men. And if you include Biden and Trump, it's just would be naive. It would also ignore that while many Israelis vehemently disagree with the choices that Netanyahu has made, there's also a fair amount of a consensus there, this consensus there when it comes to deeper issues like the inevitability of ongoing Israeli occupations in general and the acceptability of denying the self-determination to Palestinians. Those are conversations and issues that's gonna take a lot much longer and much more harder to resolve.
Hmm.
But in the short term, Israelis removing this guy from power might, at the very least, bring the stop the bring, possibly hopefully bring the stop in the horrific suffering that we're seeing in Gaza. As I said before, there's currently the next election is on October 27th. 7. And keep in mind, it's also worth pointing out that Benjamin Netanyahu, throughout the final years of his term, has actually been struggling to hold his coalition together. One of his
Hmm.
it's worth pointing out that one of his coalition partners dropped out of his coalition, and that's creating a 60-60 split in the Knesset. I think and for Israelis who think that who feel like his supporters think that he's just doing his best to protect the country, or that the end justifies the means, that somehow he's the babysitter everybody needs. It's kind of worth asking, just who is Netanyahu really looking out for? Is it the people of Israel who has been at risk by endless war? Or is it a man who spent 17 years as prime minister? I think 17 or 18 years as prime minister, and seems to be willing to do whatever it takes to squeeze out a few more. I would argue that's the second one. As,
Hmm.
and as far as I'm looking for, when the day finally comes, it true it comes. It truly will. It will be. It will. It's going to be. It hopefully will be a breath of fresh air. Because
Yes.
let's be honest, Netanyahu has now become basically an extremely toxic figure in Israel, to the point
Hmm.
where his own son literally had to change his name. They had to legally change his name.
Yeah. It's dangerous to have that last name.
Exactly. So and now it comes to the question: what are the topics of the of the nice of this upcoming election? Well, there are key issues here. There are key public interest and public interest. That is that is the military conscription. As the military conscription in, as you know, the ultra orthodox has been pushing for exemptions for that. The October 7th investigation, something in which many people have been pushing for, and blame Netanyahu for basically trying to stonewall the entire thing.
Mm.
The thing. And this leads to criticism. And one and on February 6, 2020, and on February 6th, the Prime Minister Netanyahu actually released a document of his answers during an investigation by the state comptroller, by the state comptroller of Israel, which pinned the failures of Netanyahu's political rivals while presenting himself in a positive image. That those documents led to mass criticism from opposition lawmakers, including from Gadi Eisenkot, who recently founded a new party to contest the election. Eisenkot accused Netanyahu of creating a fabricated defense that the document was published out of the desire to improve his image, to distance himself from the blame and harm the other candidates facing him. Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister of Israel, who was also running for the job again, has actually pledged to establish a commission of inquiry into October 7 as part of his campaign platform. The campaign platform, and
Right.
and I think, and one of the things, and as in September 25th and during in 2025, Bennett actually announced that he will work towards implementing term limits for the prime minister if elected to lead a government. And after forming the Together alliance with Yair Lapid in April 2026, Bennett reiterated his platform of establishing term limits for the post of prime minister, which is good. Which,
Yes, they should have term limits.
yeah, I'm all for term limits for for politicians, especially political leaders. And I think the biggest one that really got my attention was constitutionalism. According to a poll in December 2025, an estimated 71% of Israelis support establishing a constitution for the instead of the existing basic laws of Israel, and that's pretty important. It seems people seem to not find out. Israel just one of only three countries that does not have a constitution.
Mm-hmm.
That includes countries like the United Kingdom and New Zealand.
Yeah, they don't have. Yeah, they don't have board. They don't have. They don't have listed borders either.
Yeah, and basically, Natani Bennett actually campaigned on creating a constitution as part of the election platform. And Bennett has applied that his support for the constitution is a response to the government efforts at the judicial reform in 2023 and later again in 2025. He believed that the existing basic laws are unclear in how to legislate or repeal, and by what majority, and that by contrast, a constitution provides a clear foundation. Even the party platform Yashar, then even Isaac's party Yashar also supports enacting a constitution for the state. It's the state. So yeah, and many and basically it's basically they're basically being governed by the basic laws of Israel. Basically, it basically depends on what the Supreme Court and the Knesset says. And having a constitution that shrines it could help. Basically, many people believe it will help stop Netanyahu's attempts to consolidate power. Although it's worth pointing out, this is Israel we're talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
most likely that their constitution will mostly leave out Palestine, leave out Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to Palestine too, the rules, international law, when it comes to an occupying, they're occupying power. You're supposed to take care of the people, make sure they're well cared for, the people that you occupy. Israel does nothing of the sort. That's why it's so
Exactly.
ridiculous that they have a war on. They keep, you know, their violence to the people in Gaza, the violence in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. You're the occupier. You're not supposed to be violent. You're supposed to be providing for them and caring for them. You occupy them. that Israel tries to always act like they're the victim.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, Evelina said something at 12:11. She says, Dinardi, did you hear Burnham decided to keep U.S. military bases to fight Russia and Ukraine? Already he's disappointing Brits who want a break from the former prime minister's policies.
I actually have not heard of that. Thank you for bringing that up. Well, off to a pretty bad start, Burnham.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so but yeah, this election is literally going to be there's currently multiple parties pointed out. Are coming out, and like I pointed out, the also pointed out that the Together Party, the Together Party, that by Yair Lapid and Naftali Bennett, well primarily Naftali Bennett,
Hmm.
Yashar of Gad Eisenkot, and to the left, the Labor and Mertz, and actually came together and formed the Democrat Party. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, so hopefully. I just would really like the country to go to the left. This extremism. It's not. It's Israel's going to fall apart from it all.
Yeah. And another party, the party known called, and it actually came out in former minister and member of the Knesset Yoz Hendel actually found the Reservist Party. It was announced on April on 18th of September that the party has registered in the next election. The party launched a billboard campaign in early April April against the Haredi and Arab parties, which echoes a Likud campaign during the April 2019 legislative election. This following month, Hendel announced the party's returning from the battlefield program, which mainly focuses on treating PTSD and treating PTSD throughout the country. Hilly Tropper, an MK with the blue and white, became began began signature of gathering process in June 2026 and formed the forming new political party. And on July 7, it was announced that troopers will run an electoral alliance, reportedly named Foundation of Israel, with the reservists, which is basically the reservist party is basically, well, it's basically a party made from reservists and
Hmm.
idea of reservists, and it's mostly going to be focusing on uh, it's basically focusing on reservist interest and anti-conscription exempt, and it's basically and profoundly anti-conscription exempt.
And anti.
Except it's anti-conscription exceptions for ultra orthodox,
Oh,
and
it's
there
just
are
been
people.
their policy for so many years. You know.
Yeah, and there's already um he al- he's been in, and people like Ben Hendel. He was in a number of factions during the period and during the period of the Bennett Lapid government from 2021 to 2022, during the period, and considered running with Eilad Shaked in 2022 before dropping out. And I'm sure you remember Shaked, the former minister, is Netanyahu's former minister of justice, who
Hmm.
famously went on a racist tirade on Facebook by calling Palestinian women to be killed by giving birth to, quote, little snakes.
People are just so evil. The stuff they come out with.
I'm not surprised.
No, it's just maddening how evil they are, and they just say it so proud.
Well, if you're a government, well, if you're a country that's been never been held accountable for one of their lives, and been basically had immunity since basically since you're as long as Trump, as long as the United States continues and being its sugar daddy, you tend to have this kind of entitlement and
Yeah.
to say these kind of things.
Yeah.
So
Go on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as of right now, we're seeing we're now showing Yashar actually rising in the polls, and most likely will mostly be a political rival to the Likud party, and and when it comes to the preferred prime minister, then poll a poll actually showed they many would prefer Eisenkot instead of Netanyahu.
Mm. Hmm. People are sick of Netanyahu.
Exactly.
It's all about him.
Exactly.
All right, because
And
they're in a bad shape, Israel. Israel's in bad shape.
yeah, it has. And given the fact that the Strait of Hormuz it's been canceled. And Israel took a lot of bombing from Iran after they basically assassinated their leader, and the fact that now the Houthis are now closing off the other strait. It's going. They're not dealing. They're not doing very well. And basically and ever since and now they're basically a massive and their leader has a massive arrest warrant on him for him, and now basically, and now the country is basically a massive international pariah.
Yeah.
They're not doing great so far.
No. So many people have left. You know. I mean, even though they brought in more people from France, there was this group came in and they're having their real estate events all around. So many people have left. So they're in bad shape. They want to have all these wars. Look what they've done to the next generation. It's just horrific what they've done to the people.
Exact, definitely, it's horrific.
Right.
So now, lastly, we can talk about our buddy Andy Burnham.
Okay, let me see some. Evelina's got some comments here. Let me see. Yep, it's off to a bad start. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure people are fully aware. Burnham basically became prime minister on July 20th, after Keir Starmer resigned, making him the seventh prime minister in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And given this rather embarrassing fact, in a sense amongst journalists and across the country, that Burnham really needs to succeed. They really hope Burnham succeeds, and that they cannot continue this trend of switching prime ministers in and out, and now hoping the situation improves. This is something that Burnham actually understood in his first speech as prime minister. And he acknowledges that. And they're referring to the 10. And it's really surprising to hear a prime minister basically acknowledge that the continual switching out people for switching out people to be the next prime minister hasn't improved. It's a breath of fresh air when you think about it. Hmm?
Right.
In fact, in this during it, like I say, he mentioned it in his first in, is his first speech in front of number 10 as prime minister,
Mm.
referencing an upcoming 10 years plan for the UK. While some are, mm, he's basically there's only been I would say, oh sure, I forgot what I was going to say. Um, it's other it's a sign, and it's worth putting. But yeah, the speech that Burnham made is good. Many Britons see this as a sign that he stays very serious about governing. And so I think it's worth talking about what happened. I think it's worth talking about what happened on Monday, the and Burnham's continuing actions as prime minister, and a little and let's look and it's also worth pointing out. We should take a look at his current cabinet. Hmm? 'Cause I think that's going to be important.
Yes, that's very important.
So now we should start this by outlining on should start by outlining the very quickly exactly how Burnham became prime minister, as it was reflecting on just how quickly all this happened. Um, and basically, it's all this started really at the end of 2024 with Starmer's political beginning, Starmer's polling beginning to drop on the back on the backs of a number of scandals and massive U-turns. And during and those U-turns are very important
Mhm.
because while he basically presented himself as a centrist, he as prime minister, he really quickly started catering to the right.
Mhm.
Right, including his actions and his notorious actions on against Palestine against Palestine actions, which I'm sure you've been seeing numbers of the pictures of elderly people being carried away by police. Hmm? That is not a good look
No.
for any leader, especially one who was once a human rights lawyer. Hmm? But
Yeah.
many believe what the biggest thing that tanked Keir Starmer was Adels was I think his name was Adelson. I think his name was Adelson, but he it was who made him who Starmer mainly put him in charge as ambassador to the U.S. Hmm?
Mm.
Yes, and it's worth pointing out that the ambassador had very close ties with Jeffrey Epstein,
Yes.
which at the time it was very bad. It was a very bad look. This
Definitely.
Yeah, and this was really and during all that, basically many people saw as the end of Starmer,
Right.
and the polling never and the polling never recovered, and it began clearer and clearer at the time that he lacked the communication skills to win the people back around, and by early 2026, it was obvious that something needed to change.
Mhm.
It's also worth pointing out that Labor suffered during the local elections with the rise it's with the rise of the right wing Reform Party. So people were wondering how or but mostly when Keir Starmer will go, because
Right.
because Labor clearly needs to get rid of this guy, need to get rid and things needed to change.
Right.
And Andy Burnham, the mayor of Great Manchester at the time, was often mentioned as a suitable replacement for Starmer. Although the fact, well, it was going to be a problem the problem because number one, he wasn't an MP. He wasn't an MP The fact that he wasn't an MP could preclude him from mounting a leadership challenge. In February, Burnham announced his intention to stand as a Labour candidate in the Gorton and Denton by-election. Although by this was this was blocked by the Labour National Executive Committee, which was generally Stammer aligned. Mm. Later in the year, in May, mm, Burnham ally Josh Simmons resigned his Makersfield seat. This time around, the NEC didn't block Burnham from making it to the ballot from standing, and Burnham won the by-election comfortably, coming 20 points ahead of Reform, with a writing with with the writing on the wall, and with and the obviously that he's going to and the obviousness that he's going to mount a leadership challenge. Going to mount a leadership challenge, and that the fact that Starmer was fully aware that if a leadership challenge happened and he could try to contest it, Starmer would not survive. He would survive, and he would possibly be humiliated. So he did. So Starmer basically chose to step down. And Burnham became Labor leader last Friday with 379 nominations out of 380
Mhm.
this month. Then and that was huge because that is huge, and that was a sign. Be like, we'll take, because at the time when they were like, they were the labor was basically like, look, we'll take anyone that's much better than Starmer.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how bad. Yeah, that's how bad he was.
Yeah.
He was. Then on Monday, Starmer officially handed his resignation into the king, and and minutes later, the king arrived and the king invited Burnham to form a government in his name, with
Mhm.
which that's basically the form. That's basically how the UK system works. Basically, the party leader who wins the most seats, they get invited to the king to basically form a government in his name.
Right.
And that's basically how it rolls. Um, with the formalities out of the way, Prime Minister Burnham actually headed down Downing Street to speak to the nation. Mm, and speak to the nation. And he basically accepted the role as Prime Minister. So I think it's worth the time. And so this begs the question: what kind of a government would this government he will lead? He will actually lead. Um, Burnham started the speech by acknowledging the fact that he's the seventh prime minister in 10 years, and reassuring the country that his government will be different.
I don't know. We'll see.
Mm. And yes, I mean, like this is like his. I think it's his third day on the job. So it's like you sometimes you have to give him a chance.
I always give them a chance.
Yeah,
Let them dig their own holes.
yeah, yeah. Now, essentially the speech that Burnham basically made. He's trying to reassure the country that he'll be the prime minister to finally break the mold, to get the UK out of this endless cycle of PMs, and actually address the underlying problems facing the country. And now, while this might sound good, it's something we've heard from a number of people. We It's something that the British have heard numerous times from different prime ministers, as they made their speeches in front of 10 Downing number 10 Downing Street.
Right.
Back this up, something to prove that he was different. This is where the specific promises he made in the speech comes in.
Right.
First, and I think it's worth mentioning in the intro, and worth mentioning was his. He mentioned he promises his 10-year plan.
His 10-year plan.
Yeah. Now the big criticism here is that Burnham just doesn't. Now the big criticism here about his 10-year plans that Burnham doesn't really give any details on
Right.
on on what this could be. It's been clear for weeks that Burnham wanted more time to organize himself, and would have likely preferred more time to develop this plan. The fact that there is no real indication at all of what it could be in it shows how little time Burnham has had to prepare. Nonetheless, the second thing that Burnham announced was his plan to introduce measures to fight the cost of living.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Unfortunately, due to the time, we don't know what exactly how what this is. What this is. However, it's a its measures will be costed. Costed does imply perhaps an increase in taxation, and depending on how big these measures uh, are a real demonstration in that he's a real demonstration that he's going to act and that he is going to make a big changes, and that he's not afraid to ask certain people in society to pay more in order to afford them.
Right.
And this linked to his final promise he made in this speech is basically to end homelessness.
We'll see. I mean, you really want him to be able to do what he says, but it's just, you just have to just wait and see.
Yeah. Now, if Burnham is to achieve this, it will gain the demonstration, and it will gain a demonstration that Burnham is someone who can fix problems as a prime minister, willing to be able to is willing and be able to act. But it does comes with risks. While Burnham is has always had this platform of wanting to reduce homelessness and and was able to actually worked hard in reducing homelessness in Manchester. And while he did reduce the number of rough sleepers in from 2000 to that from 268 when he became mayor to only 89 in 2021, it's it's since risen to 197 in 2025. It's worth saying too that this is just Manchester. So we're talking
Hmm.
about the entire United Kingdom. So that's going to be
Right.
a huge different thing. And there are going to be many places in the UK that's going to be dealing with very different situations and how they handle it differently. Ending homelessness across the UK is going to be a different task entirely. But the question is, how is this all good? How has this all been achieved, and what kind of government is he expected to lead? Well, Nigel Farage has already been quick to point out that Burnham doesn't have the mandate to oversaw this sort of radical change that he alluded to in his Downing Street speech. And and let's be honest, who gives a shit about what Nigel Farage says? He's not in Parliament anymore.
Hmm.
And therefore called on Burnham to call for a general election. Other party leaders, however, haven't made the same pitch,
Hmm.
presumably as they're worried about their own national polling. So this so with so with this immediate general election, so with the immediate general election unlikely, Burnham is probably is just going to get on with governing. And already he's already announced the big position. He's already announced his big positions in his cabinet, like John Healey as the chancellor. It looks like and it looks like his government is going to be something of a mixture of labor faction then in the
Hmm.
factions. Then while senior figures of the labor left have gone senior positions, such as such as Ed Miliband, so too like Ed Miliband, so too have moderate figures such as Shabana Mahmood. Hmm?
Hmm.
And perhaps then this shows that Burnham is going to try to appeal to the whole party, and really it's going to govern in a more consensual style. But we'll just have to see what the coming days and months bring.
Right.
And I would say this: having Miliband basically as Minister of Foreign Affairs, that's huge. Considering it's worth pointing out that Miliband was very outspoken and spoken against certain wars.
Hmm.
Yeah, he he's basically to the I would say he's basically, and it's worth pointing out that his father was a Marxist intellectual in Brussels.
Okay. Hmm. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, in Miliband's most notable political stances against military actions occurred in August 2023. As leader of the opposition, he led the Labour Party in voting against the Conservative government's motion for UK airstrikes in Syria in response to Bashar al-Assad's use of a supposed use of chemical weapons. Miliband also argued that the proposed intervention lacked a clear exit strategy and variable and war aims, ultimately defeating the motion in the House of Commons. He was also a consistent opponent of the 2000 to 2003 invasion of Iraq. While he was not a member of parliament at the time, he later used his platform as Labour leader in 2010 to formally condemn the war, so stating that it was the wrong decision and and that it damaged the public trust in the Labour Party.
So hopefully he, is strong with anti-war and he doesn't get, uh, pushed in the direction of war by money, or whatever, being bribed.
Yeah, and most recently he served as a key internal voice pushing against the UK's involvement with when the US and Israel then basically went to an illegal war against Iran. So he got some good baggage. Hmm?
Yes.
But like I said, his cabinet is a mixture of left wing faction of the Labour Party and the moderate faction of the Labour Party. So like I said, it's basically a mixed batch. And like I said, he's only been prime minister for like for basically like 3 days. So we're gonna have to see what he does.
Yes. Definitely. We'll be keeping our eyes on him. Because we just don't need a repeat of all these others. There's a reason why. They've been through so many prime ministers. People are sick of it.
Yeah,
They're sick of
and
all these.
many yeah, and and it's worth pointing out that those seven prime ministers and the six of the seven prime ministers, they were not good. They were not good people.
No.
It's worth pointing out that one basically led the Brexit vote, and Brexit vote and hoping it would backfire, and hoping it would fail, but then it backfired. One failed to get an exit strategy. Two, another one failed was ousted due to a party scandal for during a pandemic. The other one lost to a lettuce, and the other one was basically a technocrat who bragged about stealing money from the poor. Mhm.
Disgusting.
And I'm never gonna get over the fact that when they're winning their prime ministers, that when their prime minister lost to a lettuce. Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's just fundamentally funny. Mhm.
Yes. Oh.
But yeah, this is it's a and yeah, and many Brits are basically tired of it.
Yeah, they're worn out from it. They're tired of it's like the same thing over here with the people. The people's issues aren't being focused on.
Exactly,
And having a foreign entity, consuming their government and their positions on things, they don't want that. They're fed up with it.
exactly. And now, and there, if we're right now, we're seeing a coming in our coming from our politicians, because many definitely see the wind have shifted against Israel, and
Hmm.
some are basically holding on to their position, holding on to their position as staunch supporters of Israel. Some are backing away, and some are coming in as anti-Israel. But it is shifting.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And we'll just see if they're strong enough. When you have, like I said, all those people with the money and you don't know what kind of threats. So hopefully he can stand strong in his position.
Definitely. But it's going to. We're gonna have to see. Like I said, we're gonna. Like I said, he's only been in office for like 3 days, so we're gonna have to see what's going on with Andy Burnham. He would definitely keep a close eye on him.
Yes, and
Because if he's part of the left wing faction of the Labour Party, we're no doubt going to be expecting a lot.
mhm. Yeah, Trump's already wanting to talk to him about using their airspace, to go after Iran. If he's got to tell the U.S. no.
Of course, Trump wants to talk to him. He thinks he could. I think Trump has this thing of he can look at a guy and think he can walk all over them.
Right. The world is sick of it. And it's just every day too. It's just upsetting. It's so upsetting. Just the whole region there. Just every day with Gaza and the suffering every day. And the world is silent. The world leaders are silent of the suffering. It's just maddening, the evilness that's out there.
Exactly, and and I think we're already seeing this in action now, and in action now, especially and because I just saw this and it's worth pointing out that Andy Burnham's first cabinet reshuffle as prime minister amounts to a clear out of the factions that defended Keir Starmer's record on Gaza and his war against Labour's left.
Oh,
It's worth pointing it's noting it's yeah it's worth noting that people like David Lammy Rachel Raves, Steve Reeds, Derek Jones, Peter Kyle, and Attorney General Richard Hermer have all left the government. And he described them, and and they're basically key supporters of Starmer's pro-Israel policy austerity programs, and factional control of the Labor Party.
Hmm. So it's good, to get those elements out.
Yeah, but like I said, the reshuffle does not mark a decisive turn to the left. And like I said, it's what they're putting out, like moderates like Shabana Mahmoud remains as Home Secretary despite leading the crackdown on Palestine action, while Yvette Cooper, West Streetings, and Lisa Nandy also retain senior roles. So the cabinet, I would argue, remains centrist. It basically remains, I would say, centrist to the core. Like I said, Ed Miliband's appointment to foreign secretary will be very important to watch. Miliband, like I said, he pushed. I didn't even realize this, that Miliband was actually previously pushed labor towards recognizing Palestine and criticized Israel's assault on Gaza in 2014, and could support stronger sanctions over Israel's continuing attacks on Gaza and the occupied West Bank. I would conclude that Burnham has already has an opportunity to ease the cost of living crisis, reverse labor's record on Palestine, and end the attack on protests and free speech. But with key figures from the Starmer government still in place, I believe I still have doubts that any meaningful changes will come without continued pressure from outside Parliament and on the streets. So
Right.
we will. So that's basically the conclusion. It's a weird mix.
It is because you don't know what to expect.
Exactly.
And the public opinion, the public rallying the way they do. They're really good with protesting. So hopefully there's enough pressure to get them into the direction we want them to be in. Yeah, I like I said, I just get so sickened over the situation, in Gaza. Then you say the West Bank as well, and East Jerusalem. But with Gaza in particular, there's still bombing. There's no ceasefire. People are starving. People are living in tents. People don't have a decent way of life. I mean, it's horrific what they're going through. And you're like, world leaders aren't doing anything. They're all silent. And the Palestinian people are suffering. People take it for granted that they get up in the morning and they can sit down at a table and have breakfast. They don't, Gaza doesn't have that luxury anymore. And these world leaders just don't care. It's sickening. I mean, what's it going to take to get these people to wake up? Or, I don't know, it's just like empathy. There's just no empathy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's what, like I said, like when we're talking about him, I just really hope he's able to, persuade, the parliament and all that, and they'll go in a better direction. There's constant war everywhere. Than having to be beholden to a foreign entity. They shouldn't have to be. They shouldn't. They should be focused on their own country and their own country's interest. To take care of the people. The world is a mess with all of this. Then you have the people with their stocks making loads of money off of the suffering of others. It just it infuriates me. It really does, and it's just been going on for so long. And you really see people don't care. They'll say, "Well, my family's fine. We're doing okay." Well, it's nice. It's nice you could have sat and had breakfast. Well, other people can't. Well, that drives my sister crazy on her Facebook account. People saying that all the time. Well, I'm fine. I'm fine. And it's like, well, it's good for you. Do you think you could care about anybody else? And that's just a huge problem when people can't see outside themselves.
This world is a mess.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's terrible. It really is. And people are trying. No, people are trying. There are people out there. They're on the streets. They're writing their officials. They're doing everything they can. They're sharing on social media. It's just a matter of waking people up. Before it's too late. Does it have to actually something horrible have to happen to them in their town before they wake up? We see the suffering of the Palestinians, and you see what's with Gaza. And what are they doing now? They're going after Israel and the U.S. are going after the West Bank. You see in Syria, you see in Lebanon. We see what's happening with them fighting with Iran. And I have a friend on Facebook was saying, they're in Egypt, and they're just, it's a scary thing right now. They're maniacs. Trump with Jordan. And I just wish Jordan would just, Jordan is so dependent on Israel with their with the water and different things. It's just like Jordan's got to get the hell away from the U.S. and Israel because that's the end of Jordan. The U.S. using Jordan, and they're in the line of fire, which is normal. If you're being attacked, you're going to respond to all those that are attacking you.
Exactly.
And it's just, it's sickening. It really is. And Trump just sits there with his family. They're fine. They're making money off of this, of all the suffering of other people, and they're making money. It's sickening. It really is.
Yeah. And the worst thing is some people are okay with this.
Yeah. I just don't understand how you could be okay with it. I just don't understand how people could be okay with it. Oh, yeah, it's because it's not them. It's not their area.
I guess people have no sense of understanding.
Right. It's not affecting them and their family. Oh, we're fine. But we're seeing it creeping out because, when we were talking about Latin America, Israel with the Isaac Accords, taken over there, and you have a lot of, Israelis or Jewish from around the world going to Argentina, going to all over in Latin America. They just want to bring more people to Latin America. Because right now you have people leaving Israel. Where are we going to go? So they're going to go to Latin America. It's just, It's just terrible because people in different places are leading their life. It's not like you're just naturally moving someplace. A lot of times, like you have with like where there were fires to grab that land. So people have every right to be angry with all this. People coming in from all over.
Yeah,
And I don't know. So it's going to take us. They've got that Greater Israel plan, and wanting to bring Jewish people from all around the world into that region, but um, you're not going to be able to fill up the region with just Jewish people. There's not enough Jews in the world to fill up the Middle East. So it's just maddening wanting to shift people all over the place, and then kill people that are already there.
that's colonialism 101.
Yeah, it just drives me crazy. I just can't stand colonialism. And that's what I say. It's just has it's they'll say about with Israel. So it's not just about Israel. It's about colonialism. The issue is colonialism. That it try. I just don't agree with going into somebody else's place and pushing the people out, killing people because you want to be in that place. I'm against that, and I always have been, no matter who's doing it. Oh, Evelina
It's
says, "What is your view on this, Donardi?" 12. Well, actually, it was 2 minutes ago.
what is my view on what specifically?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I was talking about. Because I went from the Middle East to people moving into Latin America. Um, we're talking about several things.
Yeah, I'm like, I think my view is this. I would say, um, definitely was. I would say this when it comes to my views on when it comes to Burnham. I'm just gonna see what happens. I don't have an opinion thing on him yet. He's only been, like I say, he's only been in office for like 3 days. So I'm gonna have to wait and see. When it comes to Israel, I feel like it's domestically for Israelis, it's going to change. But when it comes to for Palestinians, it's never. It's going to be the same. Like I said, it's going to be the same policy, but with a different face. That's my opinion on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and especially, but but Israelis are, I think, are fully aware that their support is on their support is on an all time low, and I think they're fully aware of that.
Okay, she wants to ask about the Falklands. Uh,
Yeah, there's just been it's been a back and forth of who really um owns the Falklands. It does. Some will say that Argentina still has it, but others will argue, well, the British won it because of the war. Um, so I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't like that. It's meant. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. The the British went to war for due to but it clearly was based on colonialism and and Argentina did it out of pure desperate nationalism. So I don't support either. So I don't support both either of those things. So on the Falklands, um, I think it's just an island. I think it's just literally no point. There's literally no point of fighting over it. Fighting over it. I don't like I said. I don't support that. I don't like nationalism or colonialism. It's because that island has been it's been a central around it's basically been central around British nationalism and Argentinian nationalism,
mm-hmm.
and I think it's ridiculous.
Definitely.
Anyways, y'all are literally fussing over a little island. Hmm? Like, it's not that deep.
Okay.
So that's my opinion on that.
Right. Too much. Okay, Denardi, do you have anything else you? Oh, it's another comment. Yeah. Oh, Maury Moore says the weather and scenery is beautiful.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Evelina says it's there on Argentine continental shelf, just miles from the coastline. Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful. Yeah. Well, I think that's about it, Denardi.
Yeah. I think we got everything summed up.
Yes, we did. It was a lot. Yes. A big discussion here. Thank you so much, Donati, for the show.
No problem.
And tomorrow, Hosh says he's going to be doing a show with me. So I'll be back tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
I'll try to hop on this, and I'll try to hop on too.
Oh, oh, cool. That would be
If,
great. And
awesome.
let me know if there's some stuff you want to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
And Evelina says there are an existential danger for Argentina and the entire Latin American continent. Hmm.
Yeah.
It all boils down to a lot of times I'll say if everybody would just mind their own business, you know, it's just let people live their lives without everybody, different countries getting involved and this one thinks they own it, that one thinks they own it, everybody wants to take over. And, why can't people just live peacefully? I had Evelina says the English station there. Ugh. A lot of stuff goes back to England. Yeah, it's a military base. Because that's what I can't think of his name. Jeffrey Sachs will say the root of a lot of problems, things go back to Britain. And they do, all over the world. A lot of problems go back to Britain and Britain's decisions and them thinking they can just control the world or they control the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just when you can't like most in history is mostly most of history is just especially the British game they're putting their nose where they don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
They done some very terrible things and they did it with real commitment.
Yeah, and they were
Ask
the
India, ask them. They remember. Hmm?
right, right, and the Britain claimed to be civilized, and they're bringing civilization. It's like, what do you mean you're civilized? Your history doesn't show that at all. Yeah, barbarism is not civilism. It's crazy. But anyway, thanks again, Donati, and thank you, Evelina, for all your comments. I always love having you here and the discussions we have. And thank you, everybody, for spending your time with us. And a new comment here. Yeah, Evelina says the U.S. wants to control England now. Of course, that's Trump wants to control everywhere. Maury Moore says all they do here in Chicago is party, celebrate holidays, and live in nice neighborhoods with police protection. Okay. Living in nice neighborhoods with police protection. That's kind of I don't know
Yeah.
if you have to have police protection. Evelina Aponte says, as I mentioned, they want to take the Falklands. Yeah. Yeah, I'm disgusted with all that. I just can't stand it. And there's Trump. He's all for that. Just
Well, we
taking.
all well we all know Trump is for anything that benefit him.
Yeah, taking over other places. And Yep, the U.S. Yep, the U.S. is it's horrible. And this administration is just so open about it. We're going to take this. We're going to take that. We're going to rename things. We're going to bomb this one into oblivion. I mean, it's just horrible, evil. It's just all open and out there. Okay, well, until tomorrow, we'll talk more tomorrow night.
Cool.
And thank you again for being here, and thank you everybody for watching the show. Yeah, please hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on X, on Upscrolled. I'd appreciate that. And let's keep doing what we're doing. A lot of us, we share information. Some people protest. Some are very busy writing their elected officials. Doing whatever you can to make change and do the right thing. Everybody does what they can, and that's all you can do. All a family, and we're in this together. And Evelina says thank you. Oh, she says good night, all. Yes, good night, and thank you again. See you tomorrow evening. Good night, Denarde. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace. Yes, peace to the world.